the 9th, 2024. Thank you all
Mayor,
for
it's
being.
the 10th.
It is the 10th. Yep, that's what I thought. It is July 10th, 2024, and welcome everyone. We would like to, well, let me just tell you who is here tonight. Tonight we have myself, I'm Mayor Gant, Tracy Gant. We also have Council Member John Johnson here. We have Council Member Betsy McCulley. We have Council Member Sarah Turbeville and Council Member Coney Serrano is here. And we also have our Town Administrator, Mr. Rodney Barnes, our Town Clerk, Ms. Avery, and our Chief of Police, Chief Beal. So again, thank you all for being here. We'll stand for the pledge of the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. And then we also like to pause just to take some time just to reflect for a moment of silence. All righty, thank you so much. Again, thank you so much for being here at our Town of Edmonston's town meeting today. And we're going to start out with our public input tonight. If you would like to speak, we ask that you respectfully speak, and we're going to allow 3 minutes to provide your opinion. And what is on the table tonight, the reason that we asked you to come, invited you to come, is because we would like to open or allow non-citizens voting. This was presented to us initially by our council member, Coney Serrano, and we wanted the citizens' input to see if this is something that is what you want in the town of Edmonston. This will allow anyone who is a non-citizen to vote in the town-only elections. That would also include those who are returning citizens, allowing them to also vote in the town elections. So again, I'm going to open the floor for comments. You should state your name and your address. If you don't want to give your full address, you can let us know what street you live on, okay? All right, thank you. We can, and I guess Ms. Avery, if you can kind of pay attention to who's next door. Mr. Barnes, we'll take the first comment. I know we do have a letter that was submitted as well, so we can read that after the comments. Okay, I'm sorry, Ms. Avery, go ahead. Was that Ms. Gray or was that someone else?
It was me, Mayor, just saying will do.
Oh, okay. Great, fantastic. All righty then. All righty then, is there a comment, public comment? Or Ms. Serrano, did you have a comment? Did you want to open up?
Sure. Well, first of all, good evening, everyone. I just want to thank everyone who showed up to speak today. This is an initiative that I brought forward because I believe that everyone deserves the right to vote. In Edmonston, we have over 36% of the population who was born abroad with very mixed statuses, who have lived here for a very long time and I think deserve the right to vote. So I'm hoping that we have a good conversation today and we hear from everyone. And just again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Also, there are some comments in the chat.
Mayor,
So,
Mayor,
yeah.
Hillary Chester would like to speak, and then also after her, Erica.
Okay, go ahead, I'll follow you for now. Ms. Chester?
Hi, good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, staff, fellow residents. My name is Hillary Chester. I live on 51st Avenue. I've lived in Edmonston for about 14, going on 15 years. I'm a prior council member. I also, in my professional life, have worked in the field of immigration services for over 20 years, most of that time with nonprofits, but now currently with the US government. And I think I'm very aware of just how many different kinds of immigration statuses people might have. Some of them have a pathway to citizenship. Many of them don't have a pathway to citizenship, and yet people can live in the US with a status for decades without that pathway. There are also a lot of individuals who, because of the way they arrive, they don't have a status at this time, and at this point also don't have a pathway to status, or not just status, but a pathway to citizenship either. And I think that while voting is certainly a privilege, and I think that, you know, voting in national elections and state elections is really complex, and there's a lot of regulations around that. At the very local level, I think when we think about, you know, the purpose of people voting in local elections is to express their preferences, to feel like they're part of their community, to elect representatives to represent them in meetings and their ideas and bring their ideas forward. And so for that reason, I think that people who are longstanding residents and the council and can decide how to define residency to make someone eligible for voting in local elections, I think is a good idea. These people, by and large, are living in families, and they're living in our community, and they're very invested in Edmonston. They care about what happens to Edmonston. They probably would feel more comfortable being able to speak up and participate in our local government if they were also able to vote for their representatives in our local government. And so I'm totally I'm in favor of that. And I apologize that I didn't even think about returning citizens. And so people who also are, again, longstanding residents, community members, our neighbors who, you know, may have had some criminal justice issues in the past, but now they're part of our community again. And I think it's same thing, like they should have the ability to participate and really contribute to our town, in particular by voting for their representatives. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Chester. The mayor is just switching devices and will be back here with us next. I think, Erica, you were next up to speak.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Gant and members of the Edmonston Town Council. My name is Erika Puentes. I am the Legislative Coordinator for Progressive Maryland. PM has a strong membership base across Prince George's County. Progressive Maryland is a member-based organization advocating for the rights of working-class residents and communities of color. Our aim is to build a more inclusive and democratic state that puts the interests of the people first. For this reason, Progressive Maryland is in support of non-citizen voting in Edmonston town elections. Edmonston is strengthened by a population of almost 40% foreign-born residents, many of whom are disenfranchised. These non-citizen residents have children in our public schools, are business owners, use the roadways and other public infrastructure, are workers in both the public and private sectors, pay taxes, and day after day make countless contributions to our local economy and culture. These non-citizen residents are bound to the policies and decisions created by town legislators, but are barred from the voting booth, unable to take part in the government of this municipality. This exclusion directly undermines democracy, but Edmonston has the opportunity to follow in the footsteps of many local jurisdictions in Prince George's County and rectify this issue by conferring suffrage to a wider array of people. This will bolster civic participation and ensure that representatives and policy decisions are more reflective of the population's interests. The act of granting equal voting rights to all residents is not only imperative for a healthy democracy and for systemic equality, but it is also a recognition of the dignity inherent to all human beings. Again, non-citizen residents and returning citizens offer countless benefits to our local economy and culture, and they deserve a say in the policies that affect their daily lives. But more importantly, for the mere fact that they are living in this municipality, they are fundamentally deserving of respect and the right to self-determination. Progressive Maryland supports non-citizen voting in Edmonston because we affirm the respect and dignity inherent to all persons. And we understand that franchisement is key to a healthy democracy driven by the will of the people. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Erica. And I believe next on our list is Amy and Eric. We can't, oh, Amy, we can't hear you. Good technology just not working. Can't, we see you're talking, but we don't hear anything. Okay, we'll come back. We will come back to you.
Rod, I think we skipped Eden Aaron from Casa, and also and I'm so sorry if I say this wrong, Shubho. They were next.
Shubho.
They were before and after Erica.
Okay, all righty.
Can you hear us now?
Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Oh, excellent. Okay, apologies for that. Thank you for having us. We are pleased to be able to speak with you tonight about this issue, which we all obviously feel is very important. I suspect that we probably, or that I personally probably would agree with Progressive Maryland on every other issue except for this one. I view this with hesitation, and I view this as a national security issue. Over the last number of years, we haven't seen an increase in foreign interference in our elections, and something like this, which would allow someone non-citizens to vote, I feel is a national security issue. We haven't really heard much about the parameters of this. So could someone come from say, Russia and be entitled to vote a day after coming here, 30 days after coming here? For me, that is very concerning. I fully support liberalizing paths to citizenship, including for DACA, for military veterans, and probably most of the policies that Progressive Maryland supports. But my work has to do with national security, foreign interference in elections, and I think that you have to swear an oath and allegiance to the United States and the Constitution and not to another foreign government before you can be voting in local elections. And to me, all politics is local. So I don't distinguish between federal and local elections. The local elections are the foundation of our democracy. And I believe that you should be a citizen before you are voting in a local election.
Just to continue on with that, collectively, we've got, half a century working on issues that affect the nation and its security, and trying to extend rights to as many people as humanly possible. That's just who we are and what we do. On this issue, though, I served in the military, and one of the conditions of voting is citizenship. It goes that is the key privilege of being a citizen, is having a voice in what your government has to say. And all too often, I feel like people don't take advantage of it. So yes, I'm in favor of expanding as many voting rights as possible to citizens, because you are bought into the system, you have sworn allegiance to the system, and that you understand, you've taken the courses throughout the course of your life or what have you, or the naturalization process, so that you understand how civics work locally, statewide, and federally. So.
And I would just add, there are a number of things that we can do to increase access to community involvement for people in our community, even before something like this. For example, it can be difficult to find even the agenda for this meeting. You might not have access to Facebook and you have to click through many links. Things like that of just increasing access and opportunity would be something that I would support. But I think that this is a national security and a safety issue, and I don't support it.
Thank you, Amy, and thank you, Eric. I will apologize, Eden. I'll go back to you, and Eden, Aaron.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. My name is Aidan Aron. I'm a policy analyst at CASA, and I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of CASA to support non-citizen voting in Edmonston. CASA, with a mission to empower and uplift working class and immigrant communities, represents over 155,000 lifetime members. While we have offices in 4 states and members around the country, tens of thousands of our members are Prince George County residents. CASA is a national powerhouse organization building power and improving the quality of life in the working class, Black, Latino, Indigenous, and immigrant communities. Edmonston is a vibrant and diverse community, enriched by residents from various cultural and national backgrounds. Approximately 40% of Edmonston's residents were born in another country, significantly higher than the national average of 13.6%. Non-citizen residents contribute significantly to Edmonston's social, economic, and cultural fabric. Immigrants pay taxes, run businesses, volunteer in local organizations, and send their children to Edmonston schools. Despite their deep-rooted investment in the community, they currently lack a fundamental democratic right. That is the right to vote on local matters that directly impact their lives. Allowing non-citizen residents to vote in Edmonston election has significant implications for policy and resource allocation. Immigrant residents bring unique perspectives and need that should be considered in policy decisions such as education, public safety, community health, and budget allocations. Giving immigrants a voice ensures policies reflect diverse community interests, equitable resource distribution, and effective solutions that benefit every resident in Edmonston. Moreover, expanding voting rights to non-citizens aligns with Edmonston's core values of democracy and the town's commitment to advance equity and inclusion. Expanding voting rights to immigrants will also increase the low voter turnout in Edmonston, which represented only 5% of the town's population during the last election. And it will also better represent the changing demographics. Finally, allowing non-citizen residents to vote in local elections is neither radical nor unprecedented. Several municipalities across Prince George County, including Hyattsville, Mount Rainier, Homo Manor, Cheverly, and also Tacoma Park and neighboring Montgomery County have implemented this policy successfully, promoting great civic engagement and inclusivity. When residents feel empowered and heard, they are more likely to participate in community activities, support local initiatives, and contribute to the overall well-being of the town. CASA kindly asks the mayor and the council to support non-citizen voting and send a powerful message that Edmonston is a community that values equality, diversity, and participation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. And I'll go now to Shuba.
Yes, hi there. I'm Dr. Shubho Bhattacharya. I'm a kidney doctor and I'm a resident of this town. I would like to speak in favor of non-citizen voting in our local community elections. I think when I first moved here, I found that our community is very accepting, very warm, and it's almost like an old country community where everyone's kind of in each other's and a part of each other's lives, looking out for each other, and it happens organically. No one needs to force it. Now, people who are non-citizens and returning citizens are a part of that community. They are a part of that fabric. It would be wrong of us to deny them a voice, to deny them the ability to participate in shaping and leading our community. You know, they help us. They are part of our world, and they are our neighbors and friends. I don't see how we can deny them a voice in participating in the leadership of our community. And for these reasons, I think we really should support non-citizen voting in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Marlon Cruz.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak up. My name is Marlon Cruz, and I'm coming today as a resident of the Port Towns community. I am a longtime resident of Bladensburg. I grew up here since the 3rd grade, and I'm a proud product of Prince George's County Public Schools. I think that not only Bladensburg raised me, but the whole Port Towns. I was very involved in my community all over the Port Towns, you know, Cottage City, Colmore Manor, Edmonston, and Bladensburg, for those of you who don't know. But I am coming to speak here in full support of expanding voter rights to non-citizens and returning citizens. I grew up as a first-generation Latino immigrant in Prince George's County. I'm very proud of where I come from. I'm a proud Guatemalan. I myself am not an immigrant. I am a natural born citizen here in the United States, but I recognized the advantages that I have compared to, for example, my parents who immigrated here at a very young age in search of a better life. And I think that my strong civic duty and a strong sense of responsibility when it comes to voting comes from my dad being able to vote as he was a naturalized citizen from a very young age. And so seeing how important it was for him to vote ensured that my brothers and I noticed the importance of voting in our lives and why it's important to be civically active. I am very politically involved in Prince George's County local politics. Um, and I think that many of our new graduating students from Prince George's County Public Schools, which is already 40% Latino within this past maybe 2023, I believe is that data, probably more than 50% within the next 5 to 10 years. And many of these students are going to be able to vote. They have the right to vote because they're citizens, but because their parents weren't able to vote, they won't know the importance or have that intrinsic value to voting. And I think it's really important to establish this from a very early age, especially if we give the right for non-citizens to vote. It will establish this notion of their importance for these young students that are soon to be voters. And we can't expect them to be civically involved if we're not establishing that road work for them to be civically involved. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Marlon. Mayor Terminio?
Thank you. Good evening. And again, I really appreciate the fact that they are discussing this. I just want to give a little bit of my support and why I support the non-citizen voting. A little bit of a story here. I was one of those unaccompanied childs that crossed the border undocumented. And I was able to work my way up to get my citizenship. And I will say, I used to work for Edmonston, and I know the community in Edmonston. I used to be the police clerk, then the code enforcement, and I spent 6 years of my life, working for the town. And I know the community very well. And I know that a lot of the economic development that happens in that community comes from the immigrants that establish businesses around the area. So we don't go and ask them when they come and bring business, whether they are documented or not. So what I'm trying to say is, like, here I am as the mayor of the town of Brentwood for this year is going to be my 10th anniversary. But what I'm trying to say is, like, allow us to do things that, we want to bring back to the community. We want to serve in different capacities. Like I said, who would imagine that I was a undocumented child that I have served as the first Latina mayor in the state of Maryland, serving my community for the last 10 years. I have served in Edmonston in different capacity. So we bring something to the table. Just allow us to do that, to connect somehow, because we don't want to create anything. It's a municipal government, and it's the closest level of government to the people. So it is important that the council understand the people that are surrounded. They just want to make sure they have a seat at the table and not being overlooked all the time just because they're not we're not going to do because our numbers of voters. That's how we see. They see us as a number that we don't vote, we don't come to vote. The reason, like Mr. Cruz said, is a lot of time is those kids don't go out and vote because they don't see that mimicking from their parents, because they're not feeling included. They want to be in the shadows. So, and it's a process. I don't say this. It takes a long time. People argue like, oh, you should become a U.S. citizen. You know how long it takes to become a U.S. citizen? My husband spent 15 years in that process. Okay, a lot of money is invested to get into that process. Finally, he got it in. So that's the story of a lot of the families in Prince George's County. That's the stories along, Edmonston, Brentwood, anywhere. There's got to be somebody that, for one reason or the other, or because the system doesn't allow the day that you came in is not the day that, it's so different things that stop us from becoming U.S. citizen. Yes, we want to follow and obey, the laws and things, but, it is a lengthy process that is just a political game. So allow the residents to have that opportunity to bring, something to the table. Since they're already in their community, what are you going to do? They're going to push them out? No, they are here. They are paying or buying properties. They are establishing businesses. They are doing everything they can to survive the day to day and bring families to our neighborhood. So I just in favor, and I hope that the council consider that, you know, immigrants are not here. We're not everybody's a threat. Okay. So and another thing, and thank you that the people that spoke, but a lot of the times as an immigrant, we ended up here because of the federal policies, the foreign policies that are imposed to those countries, including El Salvador, like myself in the Civil War. If you know that history, that's the reason why a lot of us in this area are, you know, in the United States. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Jason?
Hello, good evening, Council. My name is Jason Avila. I am the Executive Director with Maryland's Legislative Latino Caucus. I'm here today to advocate and ask you to vote favorably in regard to voter expansion here in Edmonston. I believe that this is truly an important issue considering the large population of foreign-born residents that are here in the city of Edmonston. You know, it's considering the fact that Edmonston prides itself in, you know, being a bridging community where diversity and inclusivity are in the heart of the town. There is certainly a need to ensure that the residents are participating in the election of their municipal leaders, especially considering the fact that, you know, we have situations where, like, for example, for last year's elections, there was only a participation of 5% of the town population. Again, we have nearly almost half of the population that doesn't have a voice. And that certainly is something that has to be changed. Legislation of this nature is not by any means scary or something that we don't know what it will result in. Again, like Casa had mentioned, we have cities like Hyattsville, Mount Rainier, Riverdale Park, and then even our neighbors in Montgomery who are already adopting legislation of this nature at a municipal level, because it is important to, you know, understand the importance of municipal voting and its difference to things like state voting or federal voting. Especially considering the fact that, you know, if we start getting into the jargon of, you know, state level equitable representation, you know, there's certainly indifferences over there. But meanwhile, here at a municipal level, you know, we are starting to have more and more representation by the uptake of this sort of legislation and the uptake of Latino mayors, you know, council members, things of that nature. Additionally, expanding voting would definitely contribute to higher community engagement. Non-citizens who are invested in local issues would be more involved in civic activities and would indeed feel that sense of belonging, you know, allowing all residents, you know, who live here day to day and already, you know, they live the day-to-day results of the legislation that's being put out there. It really ensures that they have a voice in that policy, in that governance, especially considering not only the fact that they pay taxes, they're contributing members of society, they participate in events, and many other things. For these reasons, we believe that the expansion of municipal voting is necessary, and we ask that you vote favorably for this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Carla Ramos?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak about this important initiative. And I'm here just to fully support this initiative. I have to say that I know and I understand that safety it's a concern for everyone, but at the same time, I think this has to be not only with the rights of the residents of Edmonston, but also the obligations of the town of Edmonston with the residents. Because regardless of our legal status, we are paying taxes already. The money that the city is using right now to build and to set the town more beautiful and safety, part of that money comes from those residents who are not voting, but they are paying taxes, and they have been paying taxes since they moved to the city. And as well, we've been paying taxes since we moved to this country, because regardless of the legal status, everyone in this country who works have to pay taxes, and we pay taxes. So I think we deserve, and those who are not U.S. citizens and non-voting deserve to be part and to have a voice when they are electing their authorities, and those who are going to administrate the money that we are already paying for taxes. So, so I think also it's important to the communities and the community members to feel that we are welcome, and that we are feel safe, that we are in a city that make us feel at home. So I think when all citizens and all residents in a town feel part of a big community, the communities become safer, because we belong to these cities and we belong to these towns. So it's our responsibility to be more engaged in the civics, and also in all of the activities that the city will have. So I have to say also that I am very, very proud that my daughter served in the city council member. And these are the citizens that immigrated to this country 20, 30 years ago are making to the country. We are giving to this country responsible citizenships, people who care and working for the community, and also for this country, making sure that this nation continues to grow and continues to be the place where we can all call home. So I fully support this initiative, and I hope that everyone reconsider their position on being in favor of this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carla. Appreciate that. Appreciate everybody's comments, and we'll continue to do that. If anyone else would like to add to the list to speak, please put your name in the chat and we will do that. Mayor Gant will be going over the proposal on what is being proposed as far as the requirements and the regulations proposed for the non-resident voting here in Edmonston. Our next speaker is Mayor Benitez.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Selena Benitez, Mayor of the City of Mount Rainier, one of the cities that has had voter expansion since 2017, and before us, Tacoma Park for many years, even more. I've been consciously hearing a lot of things that have been said, but based on all the studies and feedback and experience that we've been having since then in other cities, we have not experienced any violations in voters violating voting's right and security threats or issues or whatsoever. But we have found that community members feel even more engaged into their community because they're seen and welcome as well. We have seen that there's been even a bigger engagement with our police department because they feel like they're seen. They're able to contribute to, like, be able to report when it comes to the cases. They've been able to report information. And that has shown us that they see time and time again that they're welcome in the community. Edmonston is a lovely community. I love having fun, and enjoying the time there. It lines up very well with the values of who Edmonston is. A town that loves their trees, their environments, their libraries, and you got a beautiful bridge that has the beautiful flags of various countries welcoming people. I think this allows for your residents to also feel like you're part of a bigger community that will embrace them and will allow for their voices to be heard. The ability to be able to vote in municipal elections was actually something that used to be part of Maryland many years ago, and it was taken away. So what we decided to do in Mount Rainier was to make sure we put history back where it needed to be and gather some of the things that were positive in order for us to be able to expand them. The ability for people to pay taxes when they're there or contributing to their community is never limited on whether or not they have documents or not. The other thing I would like to point out, although the immigrant community is often seen as Latino community, it is not the case. There's plenty of European, API, Black members of the community that are also immigrants to our communities. But I will say this to you, being able to expand voters' rights, it gives everybody the equal chance that, to be able to see the representatives, to be able to feel they're at home. And for us, it has felt that more and more time that every election that passes by, it allows us to also meet certain people, be able to be open to who they are, and be able to bring us closer to where we're at. So we continue to advocating for making sure that all of our members know that Mount Rainier is their home, that Mount Rainier will answer them if they need help and will always be there for them. And by allowing, by making sure that your residents have an equal chance to vote, that's exactly what you're doing. I know that Edmonston is a beautiful city, like I mentioned. This ties up very closely with your values. As well, you guys have been pioneers in so many ways. Edmonston's first API mayor in the mainland was actually the mayor in Edmonston. And so on, so many records that you have broken because you have been inclusive and welcoming, and this just reflects another level of Edmonston and who you are, and what you believe in. At least for me, since the age of 15, I've been working in immigration rights, and human rights as well. I knew very early on that my privilege was that I was a citizen and I spoke both languages. It allowed for me to be able to connect communities. And I think that this allowed for people to see more and more that they belong in our cities. And what better expression to show somebody that belongs to a city to make sure they have the equal rights and the human rights to be able to vote and be part of the democratic party that we all celebrate. Many in our countries flew because of political repression. I, like Mayor Tremio Lopez, flew El Salvador because of a civil war. I was born in a civil war and left my country because of a civil war, right? And was pushed here. I was fortunate enough to come here with documents, but I quickly learned that that was the case for many people. And I realized that we were separating people between the haves and the have-nots. And I felt like it was at least my responsibility to not see people like they were second, third, fourth class citizens, and seeing them beneath of who we are. And that's something that in my many years of life, I have been advocating. So for us, it was important to expand voters' rights to make sure human rights were given to residents. And I thank everybody that has spoken. And if any help or guidance or any question is needed, the City of Mount Rainier is welcome to take any questions that you guys separately, not in this meeting, in order to be able to, figure out how it works in our city and so on. But I will say thank you, and I'll tell you this, every city that you hear in this list has basically opened their arms to say, like, we're here to support one another. And it's a tough conversation at times, but we know the heart of people are in the right place, and we want to make sure we all get there to make sure every single person, and not just Prince George's County, but everywhere knows that this is their home and we'll support them. So thank you guys so much, and thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Casanas?
I always get surprised when I turn the camera on and see how crazy my hair looks. Good evening, everyone. My name is Monica Casañas, and I'm the mayor of the town of Colmar Manor, not too far from where Edmonston is. I really love the town. I love the leadership. And honestly, I commend everyone that's on here right now, and those who aren't, that are tackling this difficult conversation, right? It's not easy to have these conversations at all. I wanted to come and share my perspective on a couple of things. So I want to kind of tell you how I got to where I am, why we passed all resident voting in Colmar Manor, how we implemented it, and how it's working. So first off, I want to acknowledge that I would not be here if it weren't for African Americans, Black community, for women who have taken the step and the courage to be leaders. So I stand on the shoulders of giants. I was not born in the United States. I was born in Bogota, Colombia. I became a citizen when I was 7, 8 years old. I did not have a choice in coming here. Back when I came here, there was no such thing as DACA. So I just became a citizen when I was 7, 8. I had to renounce my citizenship in Colombia. And I have voted ever since I was able to vote. That has not been the case for everyone in my family or everyone in my community. But I also want to just ground the conversation in voting. Voting is not an American thing. It's a human rights thing. So if you live in a community, especially a democratic one, everyone should have the ability to have a say in what happens in their community and really what happens to them. I decided to run to be the mayor of Colmar Manor. I'm the first Latina mayor in Colmar Manor, the third in the state of Maryland. Currently, we only have 4 Latina mayors in the state of Maryland because there was not representation in my community. So funds were being spent and no outreach was being done to the immigrant community. So basically, they were paying taxes and they've lived here for decades, but they had no say in how their money was being spent. These are people who have purchased homes, not just one home, multiple homes, have created businesses, and have given back to their communities, right? And they were not allowed to have a say in what was happening with their hard-earned money. They were not able to elect people that reflected their values. For me, if I'm coming into a community, that's a problem, a big problem. So I ran with the intention of pushing all resident voting. I live in a community that has been historically a Black community. For over 50 years, it's been a Black community. And through demographic shifts, as all of Prince George's County is experiencing, an influx of people from South America, Central America, Europe, Africa has taken place. So right now I live in my community where we have about 50, if not more percent are of the immigrant community. We have a lot of people here from Central America, South America, Europe, a big, or actually growing Ethiopian community and a big Filipino community. One of our previous council members who ran, we both ran against each other to be mayor. Her mother could not vote for her. And I told her, her name is Melinda. I said, Melinda, if you ever decide to run for mayor again, I will run against you. But you know what? Your mom will be able to vote for you. I only beat her by 3 votes. Actually, no, sorry, 4. If her mother could have voted, or if maybe other members of her family could have voted, she would have beat me. And these are people that have lived here longer than I have, longer than a lot of people have. So once I ran, we went ahead and we implemented, it was not easy. It was a lot of difficult discussions, a lot of angry people coming to me, telling me that they didn't want this to happen. And I understand why. It's a difficult concept to explain, and it's a difficult concept to kind of think through. But when you think of it through a humanitarian and a social justice and an equity lens, you realize, you know what? Everyone deserves the right to vote. So we've had to struggle for Black people to vote. We've had to struggle for women to vote. We had our first African-American president. We have our first Black governor in the state of Maryland. All of that is possible because we can all vote. And they reflect, at least for me, they reflect my values. And I happily voted for them. Once we implemented the all-resident voting in Colmar Manor, presently, according to our charter, anyone who moves into our town who has lived in town for at least 30 days is eligible to vote. I conceded and I said, okay, for people who are not citizens, they have to have lived in town for at least, I think it's 60 days, maybe more. And then they're able to vote. They register through our town. So anyone who wants to vote registers through our town registry. They have to prove that they live in town, and they prove this through either a bill They prove this through either a lease. They have to provide photo identification. If they don't have any of these, they have to get an affidavit. That is a certified affidavit from a neighbor, someone that knows them. And I have to tell you, this past, I think about a year and a half ago, we had the first test of this really was a special election when one of our council members stepped down, which was about a year and a half ago. But the real test was when we had our council election this past May. And I was astounded. People who had never voted came out and voted. And that to me made me so happy because we were able to enable and empower people in their community, people who have lived here for a very long time, to come out and vote for the very first time. So not only did they come out and actually vote, they are more engaged and involved in this community. So when you see issues of like trash, when you see code enforcement issues, when you see parking issues, all of that is right back down to engagement and how these people feel like they are a part of a community. Now because they can vote, and now because they hold their elected officials accountable, they feel like they have more say and are a part of this community. And that's all, at least for me and most elected officials, want. We want to create community. And this is a very powerful tool in doing that. Now, I've heard all of the objections in regards to why we shouldn't do this. Edmonston, if you have Russian interference in your election, you're doing something incredibly amazing. Your town, I think, is about the size of ours. So our town has about 1,588 residents, 455 homes. It is very difficult to get people out to vote. I think most of you know that. It's difficult to get people to come out to meetings. Trust me. And this has gone through the test with many municipalities. It's not a fear that I believe is something that's on a high priority list. It could be a fear. I'm not saying that it's invalid, but it's not up there. So for me, I just want to again commend everyone for tackling this difficult issue, for supporting it. And I hope that you all will consider it and see the positive changes that will happen in your community. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Mayor Kazan. And I know we've had some other folks join. Before I go back and ask for others that have spoken to speak again, I want to just make sure everyone's had an opportunity to speak. So is there anyone else that would like to? There is a question from Salita Bennett White. Would this be
Rod?
strictly a decision by the mayor?
Sorry, Rod, can we make the announcement in Spanish if there are any folks here who haven't been understanding?
Absolutely. Jamila?
Thank you so much, Councilmember Serrano. I was going to interrupt to say that we do have an interpreter here, and I didn't know if anyone needed the interpreter, so I wanted to see if that was necessary. If it is, then we have Ms. Jamila here. I don't know if they could raise their hand, the virtual hand, just to let us know we need the interpreter available for them. Otherwise, we can just go on. Did you know that someone needed it, Ms. Serrano?
I mean, I'm happy to just quickly say it in Spanish, if I can.
Okay, Jamila is here. You don't have to worry about it. We have Jamila here to sum it all up.
Ok, buenas tardes a todos. Esta tarde el Consejo Municipal está solicitando opiniones sobre el voto de los no ciudadanos en las elecciones de Edmonston. So, si quieres dar tu opinión, puedes levantar tu mano usando uno de los botones que tenemos en Zoom o puedes poner tu nombre en el chat.
Thank you, Jamila. And now I'll go back. There is a question in the chat. We'll take that in a minute. But we have had a request by the Eric and Amy to speak again. Amy or Eric, whichever wants to go first.
Sure, I'll start first. This is a very emotional and personal issue for many people, right? And so I want to thank everyone for presenting this and let's having this discussion. This is what democracy looks like, right? It's like having this discussion and figuring out where we are and then trying to move forward as a community. I would like everyone to take a step back for just a second. Again, if if you're a carpenter and works the hammers, everything looks like nails, right? So in a world that, where we might work, the world looks like a completely different place than the world where others might work. That's just how the world is. And the right to vote, I'm just going to read this because I don't want to get it wrong, is the most important political right in international human rights law, bar none. Framed within the borders of a broader political perspective, it is the only right that is in the International Covenant of Civil and Political Rights not guaranteed as a universal human right, but rather as a citizen's right. So it begs the question, what then is a citizen? My forebears, certainly hers, fought for that right to vote as citizens. I bled in the military for the right to vote as citizens. My grandfather, my grandfather's brothers have all fought for that right to vote. The journey to getting that right to vote is part of the process, whether that's naturalization, whether that's whatever. It is a process of civic education and understanding what you're doing. The right to vote shall not be infringed, I get it, for citizens. And I would like to reserve that right for citizens, for those who are bought into the process, who have sworn an allegiance to the process, who understand what the process is. Otherwise, you open yourselves up to be changed by any number of factors. Now, our community is full of people who represent all types of backgrounds, which is what makes it a great thing, which is why we lived here, which is why we moved here. That said, there are many ways to be active and participate in your local government without voting. And if you wanted to have that right to vote, go through the process. Go through the process. I'll like to say also then, actually, you know what? I'll pass it on.
So just to jump in, because we're seeing people that we would typically be very much in agreement disagreeing with us. And I just want to address for a moment, I'm hearing very emotional arguments about valuing people and equity and inclusion. And I'm hearing people conflate immigrants with non-citizens. These are all very different things. I also approach this as an attorney who works for the Department of Justice. So if you're talking about a proposal, we actually should be talking about the language. What is the proposal? I'm hearing examples of people who have been integral parts of our community for 5, 10, 25 years. But the policies that you're talking about are people who have lived in a community for 30 days. These are two very different things. You're not asking to give the right to vote to someone who's been here 5, 10, or 15 years. You're asking to someone who's been here 30 days. And I understand that it sounds radical and paranoid to say that there is Russian interference in our elections, but it is neither. It is literally a fact. That is how we got in the state that we are in today, where we have a president who is not subject to the laws of the country, or a past president. We got there because of Russian interference in our elections, and all politics is local. We are talking about a public policy. What this town passes as a law matters. These are public policies. These are laws. These are not emotional things. So I support the right of all people, of equality. I support expanded voting. I support polls being open longer. I support rights to the polls. I support all of these things that make for a more robust community and value everybody. But you have to first swear an oath of allegiance to this country before you vote in an election. If you have not sworn that oath of allegiance, if you have not put your hand up and said, I no longer am an allegiance to a foreign country, Iran, China. We're talking about the people in our neighborhoods that we love and value, but the policy that you are crafting is not covering just those people. You're asking to pass legislation that doesn't reflect the values that you are purporting to hold. If you're talking about protecting people who've been here 5, 10, and 15, 30 years, why is your policy for 30 days? These are two very different things. You're voting and you're talking about emotional things. It doesn't add up. You're conflating all of these things. It's very disappointing, and it's not good public policy.
And you're right, Monica, both of our forebears did fight for this right. They fought for this right as citizens. And that's what we want other people to do. If you want to vote, we believe you should become a citizen to do it. It's not anti anyone. I will support everyone's rights to do what you want to do with your life. But voting is crucial. It is critical and crucial.
Thank you,
Wait,
Amy.
one more thing, just to point out, we have spent the last hour listening to people, and I really respect that outside groups they're representing people and they have a voice. But just to draw your attention, for the last 58 minutes, we have heard from people that live in Edmonston for probably 7 minutes, and we have heard from outside groups for probably 51 minutes. So we are literally seeing right now an example of people that don't live in our community having a greater percentage of the voice than the people who live in our community. So just to draw your attention, it's actually happening right now.
Thank you, Amy. Carmen, we'll come to you. You're asking, we'll go back real quick to Dr. Shubu, if you want to speak again.
Yes, hi. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I want to address some of the concerns that the Dysons raised, and I fully see where they're coming from. I understand that it is important to be concerned about security, and I myself am always concerned about safety. Safety first is something that I have to practice every day. But that being said, I'm an immigrant, and I've only lived in Edmonston. I live in Edmonston, 5100 Decatur Street. I've only lived here for 2 years. I'm a relatively recent explant. That being said, the community embraced me faster than 30 days. I met my neighbors. They invited me over. We've shared food. We've looked out for each other. We've watched over, our neighbors have watched our child on emergency basis. Like, I think this kind of relates to what does it mean to be a citizen? And it's important to think about the perspective, like what level are we talking about it at? And the Dysons make very good points for the federal and possibly state level. But at the local, municipal, community level, the things that constitute citizenship are being in each other's lives and being helpful and being neighborly and looking out for one another. It is the filial aspects of our existence that really define the local part of community. And so it doesn't take very much time for that aspect, that local communal bond to really form. For me, it happened faster than 30 days. And I live in Edmonston. I love living in Edmonston, but I'm a young person, young family here, and I don't have the wisdom and experience that the other people do. If I were not a citizen, unchanged, everything else about me, bar a piece of paper, would I not be deserving of the rights to have my voice heard in leadership? I think I respect myself to demand that right for me, and I extend that same respect to my neighbors and community members who happen to also not be citizens. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Carmen?
Thank you, everyone. Hi, I'm sorry I'm late. My name is Carmen Darty. I'm an Edmonston resident for 10 years. I'm also a civil rights attorney working on voting rights in America right now as we speak. And I wanted to just mention 4 quick points of why I'm absolutely in favor of allowing non-citizens to vote in local elections here. It's not just about the right to vote, it's about the principles of inclusivity, representation, and community engagement that our town holds dear, and that I know that this council and this mayor and Rod hold dear every time that they're out in the community. One, it's about community integration and representation. We know non-citizens are an integral member of our community. They own homes, run businesses, pay taxes, contribute to the local economy. Their kids go to schools down the street, participate in all of the community events, and denying them the right to vote in local elections means excluding them from decisions that directly impact their lives. Inclusive voting policies ensure that all voices are heard and represented, not just ours, leading to decisions that better reflect the needs and the desires of the entire community for which all of these folks live. It strengthens democracy. Time and time again, we know democracy thrives on broad participation. By extending voting rights to non-citizens, we strengthen our democratic processes. Hard stop. We know when people are involved in decision-making, it leads to more comprehensive and representative governance. Non-citizens bring diverse perspectives and experiences, which can enrich our whole society and our community. It enriches public discourse and leads to more innovative and effective solutions to local issues. There's historical and legal precedents for this. Allowing non-citizens to vote in local elections, this is not a radical idea. Throughout American history, non-citizen voting has been a common practice. Even in the early days of our republic, many states allowed non-citizens to vote in local, state, and even federal elections. My grandparents, I'm African American, were not considered citizens. Would we say they wouldn't have the right to vote because of that? Today, several municipalities across the country, including nearby jurisdictions like Tacoma Park and Hyattsville, which you heard, have successfully implemented this non-citizen voting in local elections. These examples demonstrate that non-citizens voting is both practical and beneficial. And lastly, it encourages civic engagement. Granting voting rights to non-citizens fosters a sense of belonging and encourages greater civic engagement. When non-citizens feel that their voices matter, they are more likely to participate in community activities, volunteer for local causes, and engage in dialogue with our neighbors. This increases civic participation, can lead to a more vibrant and cohesive community. In conclusion, I will just say allowing non-citizens to vote in local elections is a logical, just, and forward-thinking policy that aligns with the values of our town of Edmonston. It promotes inclusivity, strengthens our democracy, and ensures that all members of our community have a voice in the decisions that affect their daily lives. And I urge the council to vote in favor of this important measure. Thank you.
Thank you, Carmen. And I will go back to Carla. You had additional comments?
Yes, I just wanted to add that before I and my family moved to Edmonston, we live in Washington, D.C. for more than 20 years. And I was a volunteer with the D.C. Board of Elections. And I know, and I hear, and I know, I might not much know about the federal and how elections happens at the federal level. But I think thinking that the Russians can do something in local elections, I think it's giving them too much importance. I know exactly how the DC Board of Elections works. And believe me, it's very transparent process. And I'm pretty sure that Edmonston has the same transparent process. So I think we have to trust also our institutions. And also, let me tell you, Washington, D.C., the capital, not just of the United States, but the capital of the world, just passed non-citizens voting rights last year. And yes, and on June 4th, they have their first primary elections where the non-U.S. citizens vote. I work in D.C. and I work at a school for adults where we were encouraged students to register to vote, citizens and non-citizens. And we are now working in registering more students for the upcoming elections. They are not going to vote for president. They are only going to vote for council members, and not for all council members, just for those zones where they are electing new council members. So I think what it needs to be done here is more education. I think tonight it's not the night that we have that the councils have to decide whether they're going to pass it or not. But I think we all have the responsibility to educate ourselves and educate the communities before we before we make an opinion, because I think there's a lot of misinformation here. And I really, really encourage those who might not agree with this initiative to look at the Washington, D.C. non-U.S. citizens initiative, because that says a lot. Washington, D.C., come on. There's no more federal buildings and federal institutions in Washington, D.C. than anywhere else. So I just wanted to add that.
I think we have two more speakers, Betsy, and I think we also, Mayor Casañas wanted to speak again, so we'll go to Mayor and then we'll go back, then we'll go to Betsy.
Hi. So to the Dyson family, I don't want you to feel like anyone's attacking you. And when you say that this is like an emotional thing, it can be. I mean, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. We're talking about rights. We're talking about human rights. So of course it's going to be emotional. In regards to interference in stuff that's happening in your community, if I lived in Russia and I was calling in from Russia, sure, you'd have a point. However, I purchase and patronize businesses in Edmonston. I attend many community events. Many people have family and friends that live in Edmonston. As a matter of fact, I consider some of my friends family. And so I have family that lives in Edmonston. Not only is Edmonston my community, Mount Rainier is my community, Brentwood is my community, Hyattsville is my community, Adelphi is my community, Cottage City is my community, North Brentwood is my community. As a matter of fact, I was just there because they had an excellent presentation on the Black history and legacy of the families that founded North Brentwood. But let's go back to what citizenship means. I think that we can all agree that we have wait for it, a broken immigration system. And I love saying that because everyone can agree on that. So what does that mean when I say we have a broken immigration system? It means that it is a system that isn't equitable to everyone. It's a lottery, basically. You are very lucky. It's like winning the lottery when you become a citizen. So it's not in any way a system that makes sense, and it's deeply rooted in racism. So when we talk about systems of inequality and systems that promote racism, I believe that the immigration system in the US is one of those. So for me, I'm putting that aside. To me, a citizen is someone that lives in a community, is someone that contributes to a community, someone that adds financial, economic, but also a human benefit, is a social asset to your community. I believe that there are a lot of people in Edmonston that are like that. And we are not, I know that you were saying that we're only talking about people for 30 days or 60 days. No, we're talking about the spectrum of it. It's not just someone that just moved in. There are many people that have lived there for decades. You might not realize it, but there are people that live in your community that have lived there for decades that have not been able to vote. And so it's okay. I don't feel like I'm going to change your mind. What I'm asking for is empathy, and I'm asking for people to put themselves in the shoes of others and understand the structures that we currently live in and use that to make an educated decision on whether this benefits your community or not. So thank you again for letting me speak.
Thank you, Mayor. Betsy? You're muted still.
I'm
There you
saying
go.
I was trying to hit off. All right, I'm talking as a resident of the town of Edmonston, not anything other than as a resident. I believe that this is a big security risk. Both of my parents were very involved in the military and in the security part of the government, especially overseas. And I'll just mention, no one came in to Friendship Airport, also known as BWI, without clearance from my mom as the head of her department. So that tells you what level of she's coming from. And someone mentioned Russia. I've been in this town for 40 years as a resident. At one time, we did have what some would call the Russian mafia that was living in this town. So for those that think it's highly unlikely, it's very likely. I believe that to vote in our town, you must be a US citizen. And I would like the town And I would like other towns around us, the county on up. I know it's very hard to get your citizenship. I've helped 2 people do it. One was an employee for Edmonston. I think the issue is, yes, there's a lot of strings, but the council from each town and city should pressure the county council on up. Let's cut some of these strings and let those that want to become citizens, pledge their allegiance to the United States. And wherever country they've come from, they denounce them. I know that's not going to make a lot of people happy, but I believe that I've lost many family members fighting for this right to vote. It's a right of a U.S. citizen. I could say a whole lot more, but this is going on very long. I'm going to, if I go more, then I'm going to go into the council side. But myself as a citizen, I don't think this should be something that's left up to the mayor and council. I think as a citizen, this should be something that should be voted on. If mayor and council wants to go through, and have non-citizens vote, I think it should be something that is put on the ballot for the next election.
Thank you, Betsy. We have 2 more people that have requested to speak. I'm sure I'm butchering this name, Ninfa Amador. There we
Hi,
go.
good evening. You got it pretty close. My name is Ninfa Amador. Good evening, Council and Mayor. Thank you so much for having me. I am a longtime Maryland resident. I grew up in Prince George's County, where I studied since I was 5 years old. I came to this country from Honduras. I am a non-citizen. I am an immigrant, and I am a Marylander. And I have been living in the state, as I said, for many years now, and I call this place home. And I really thank you all for having this conversation today. And I would just like to bring up a couple of topics. Non-citizen voting is allowed. You don't have to be a citizen to vote. We already see this in many other jurisdictions across Maryland and across the US as well. If it were the case that non-citizens couldn't vote, I don't think we'd be having this conversation today, but this is a policy option that is available. And I applaud the council for taking this option on. Secondly, I have been pledging allegiance to this country since I was 5 years old, and I didn't even know what those words meant, trust me, when I first started kindergarten. However, I've learned to, as you can see, speak English very well. And I love Maryland. I no longer live in Prince George's County. I would just like to share that with you. However, as a Marylander who cares about our immigrant community and just our community all over Maryland, I definitely think that this would greatly benefit your residents. As someone myself who is very interested in policy and politics, to benefit community, public policies that are people-centered. And we know that undocumented residents exist, especially in Edmonston and all over the county, and they are providing small businesses. They are providing the labor force that many of our local municipalities rely on heavily. And this is just another way, and it is indeed a policy option available to let these residents know that they are seen, that they are cared for. And this is just another way that they can choose to participate in elections. And secondly, this policy would only allow individuals to participate in local elections. Federal government and federal vote regulations are already set. So I think that there is already systems in place to ensure that, whatever concerns we have about individuals who can't and who shouldn't be voting in federal elections, that doesn't happen. But I don't think it is the intent of this council to bypass federal election laws. I think it's the intent of this council to let the community in Edmonston know that they are seen and that they are welcome and that they are able to participate in something as simple as voting. And if an individual takes their time to go out on election day to vote, I think that says a lot about the individuals that you have as residents of your town. And it just goes to show that it will provide, as other individuals have said before me, more civic engagement and just a better community, a better sense of community in your town. And once again, I said, as an immigrant myself, as a non-citizen myself, I can't vote. Being able to vote with my peers, being able to vote at my local level, and that's all that this seeks to do at the local level, would mean the world to me. And if I want to take the time out of my day to go vote, and we've seen the voting percentage of individuals who do this is very low. I think, once again, that says a lot about the level of care that people have for their community and their governments. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Diana Torres?
Thank you, Council, for taking the time to listen to public input this evening. I wanted to speak in favor of this initiative. I wanted to, I guess, follow on some of the things that Mayor Castaña said and Marlon Cruz said. I also was born in the United States. It's an unearned advantage I have had. And the way I became civically involved kind of came about with age. I paid attention to things that I would see in neighboring counties, neighboring cities, and wonder, well, why we couldn't have certain things where I lived. And so I became concerned with the idea of, well, if I see certain things in certain towns, certain counties, it's because the people who live there are asking for those things, or asking for the things that they want. So with regard to non-citizen voting, or all resident voting, which is the term I prefer to use, is I think it's essential for people who are living in a place that they have a say with what's going on in their town, especially if they are paying taxes. And with regard to the concern for Russian interference, I think that's a threat that we have heard about. We know that there can be an influence, but I think the ongoing injustice that is already happening that isn't quite being addressed is that people who are living in a town aren't being counted when it comes to their concerns with regard to how they're being taxed and how their tax money is being used, and not being able to have a say in that. And so where are we going to address that? We're not quite showing that concern by saying, well, let's worry about the Russians first, when we have citizens or residents who don't have a say in what's going on in their town. So I think it would behoove the council, or at least this town, to be able to provide that right. And in terms of when we're saying, well, what is a citizen? What is being a citizen premised on? I think it's on that human right that you should be able to have a say about where you live, what your community is doing for you, especially if you are contributing to that with taxes. So that's the input I wanted to provide. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Donna. And Councilmember Serrano, our interpreter had to leave, and you have a Spanish-speaking person that would like to talk.
Señora Astrid, si está aquí, puede hablar ahora. Yo le voy a traducir. Si está hablando, no le podemos escuchar. Creo que todavía está en silencio su teléfono.
Hola.
Ahora sí.
Ok. Buenas noches. Pues nosotros somos nuevos residentes de la ciudad de Edmonston. Tenemos ya, ¿qué? Nos movimos en noviembre del año pasado. Y pues nosotros sí nos gustaría participar en las votaciones locales, porque pienso que sería, tenemos el sentirnos, ajá, que estamos, nos están tomando en cuenta, que somos miembros de la comunidad. Y pues sí, estamos a favor de esa ley, y sí que sería un éxito que nos puedan tomar en cuenta, pues.
Muchas gracias. So she said that her and her husband are new residents of Edmonston. They moved here in November of last year, and they are in favor of the of the ordinance, that they would like to vote, that they would want to feel like they're being taken into consideration and be part of the community. And so they are in favor of these efforts. Muchas gracias, Astrid.
Gracias, buenas noches.
Thank you. Good night.
Tony, could you perhaps get their names, their last name?
Yes, I can send that over to you guys.
Mhm.
Mr. Barnes?
Thank you. I have the last name. Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Barnes.
Oh, hi, Mr. Doyle. Go ahead.
Hello, yes. My name is Walt Duty Doyle. I'm over here on Emerson Street. My wife and I have been a resident of Edmonston for quite a long time. In fact, my grandmother was a resident of Edmonston back in the 40s, 50s, and early 60s. I think, to my opinion, that if you are a citizen of, if you're a resident of Edmonston, I think you should have a say, count what's going on, what you would need, what the town needs, what the town council is doing for the town. I've been to a lot of the functions, and a lot of our residents has been there. And I think even though they're not citizens, or there are citizens, the town votes is what counts. They are part of the town. I know a lot of my neighbors around here. We all help each other out. We talk to each other. And I think if we can keep that going, the town would be a whole lot better than it has been in years. And I've seen a lot of improvements with the people in the town. My opinion is, let them vote. As long as they are good citizens, they abide by the laws, abide by the rules of the town, not the state of Maryland or state of Virginia or state of Russia. This is our town, and they are part of the town. And another real quick question. Mayor Gant, Mr. Barnes, council members, and the city of Colmar Manor, thanks a lot for yesterday's dinner. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Doyle. I believe that ends that. The people that want to speak from putting their names in the chat, I will add to the record a letter from our Prince George's County Council. This is from Chair Jolene Ivey. As Chair of the Prince George's County Council, I'm honored to extend my unwavering support for the voter expansion initiative currently being voted on in the town of Edmonston. This crucial measure represents a significant step toward ensuring that all residents, regardless of their citizenship status, have a voice in the local governance that directly impacts their lives. Prince George's County is home to an increasingly diverse and vibrant community. Over the past few years, we have seen a significant rise in the number of immigrants, many of whom are Latino and/or Hispanic. Many of this population speak only Spanish, representing unique challenges and opportunities for our county. Expanding voter rights to include all residents in local elections is not just a matter of fairness, it is a recognition of the contributions each individual makes to our community. They pay taxes, send their children to our schools, and participate actively in the economic and cultural life of our county. It is only fair that they have a say in the decisions that shape their daily lives. This initiative is a bold affirmation of our commitment to inclusivity and democracy. By allowing all residents to participate in local elections, we acknowledge their importance to the fabric of our community and empower them to contribute even more meaningful to our shared future. I commend the leadership of Edmonston for bringing this initiative forward as they join the ranks of fellow towns like Hyattsville, Mount Rainier, Cheverly, Brentwood, and Colmar
Watch a
Manor.
movie.
And I urge all residents to support this vital measure. Together, we can build a more inclusive, representative, and equitable community for all who call Prince George's County home. Jolene Ivey, Chair, Prince George's County Council, District 5. I will now turn the event over to Mayor Gant.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone, for your input. That is the purpose. We wanted the input for those who are residents of Edmonston and those who are supporters of Edmonston and what we're doing. And we knew that there would be some that would be for and some that would be against. And that is the whole purpose of respectfully voicing your opinion, because this is a charter change. And we solicited your input. We definitely solicited the input of our residents. This has been on the table for maybe 4 months or so to gain input from our residents. And tonight we've had the greatest, because we just about had to do a campaign. We've had the greatest input, and we greatly appreciate it. And I greatly appreciate the support of all those who attended tonight for this comment section or this hearing. And I think it was Ms. Ramirez, Ms. Carla Ramirez, that said that it's knowledge. And that has always been its forefront for me for whatever we do, whatever initiative we're doing. If we're talking about recycling, it's knowledge. Whatever we're doing, knowledge is important. And I think even this non-citizens voting, it's knowledge. And that's why we've had it on the table for so long, so that individuals can get the understanding of what we're doing or what we're proposing, or I should say what Ms. Serrano initiated, and what we may do as a council, whether we vote for it or against it. And we have the opportunity to do it. We have to do what we need to do for the town of Edmonston. And I appreciate the mayors that came on from Mount Rainier and Colmar Manor, and those who serve on the county council, our county council chair, and those who work with our county council. I appreciate the stories. And yeah, I got a little emotional. I'm not going to vote on emotion, but yeah, I got a little emotional with some of the stories, because it resonates with me and maybe some others. So thank you, all of you, for your input. I do want to read what our proposed charter revision is, so that you can have an idea. And then I'm going to allow our town attorney, Judge Deloach, to explain about the charter change process. And also the town council does have the opportunity to decide whether we want to go forward with a yay or a nay and make the charter change and proceed with the charter change or not. But we also have the opportunity to put it as a question on our next election. We have that opportunity, but it's not required for us to do. But I'm going to go ahead and read what the charter revision says. And it says it's the code revision 34-9 for voter qualifications. The revision reads: election procedures, supervisors of elections, registration of voters. Any person residing within the corporate limits of the town who has the town of Edmonston as his or her primary residence, is at least 18 years of age at the time of application, has resided within the corporate limits of the town for at least 45 days immediately preceding any town election, does not claim the right to vote elsewhere in the United States, has not been found by a court to be unable to communicate a desire to vote, and is registered to vote in accordance with the provisions of this charter, is registered to vote with the supervisors of elections for Prince George's County, and will be at least 18 years of age on election day, shall automatically become a registered voter in the town of Edmonston and be entitled to vote at town general or special elections. If there is a comment or a question, you can go ahead and put it in the chat. maybe there's something we should edit. I can go ahead and entertain that right now.
So this begs the question if we're actually talking about language, and thank you, Mayor, because it's very helpful to now actually have the language that we're talking about. So this begs the question.
Maybe I should have read it and going in.
Well, it might have framed the discussion a little bit, but so what are the requirements for registering to vote? Because you've listed being registered to vote as a threshold requirement, so now we need to take a step back. And what are the registration requirements? Are we
So
all
what are we going to ask for from our residents when they come in to register to vote?
Right, it seems
On
like
the app, they'll fill out the application, and what will we need in order to prove that they are residents in the town of Edmonston? Is that what you're saying?
It would suggest to me that before someone is allowed to register to vote, there's probably some requirements there. Do we need to also amend those as well? Is that part of the consideration, or is there not?
So it just says that they have to prove that they are, they reside in the town of Edmonston. So they'll have to bring that proof.
So currently, anyone that resides in the town can register to vote?
If you are, it says, has resided within the corporate limits of the town, 45 days immediately preceding, no.
So I'm asking if our lawyers have looked at the law around voter registration, because if we are referring to the requirement that they be registered, it seems like that would be part of our analysis.
There's an application that they'll have to complete. Is that what you're saying? There's an application that they'll have to complete. Is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying we're referring to they be registered as a requirement. So I'm taking a step back and I'm asking, what are the requirements for voter registration? Are we also amending that law?
No, that's state law, I believe, right?
So how can we?
Mayor, I believe
Never mind. This is probably a better question for your lawyers. Never mind.
Mayor, Judge Deloach cannot be on camera, but he is available by sound.
Yeah, maybe Judge Deloach, maybe you want to answer that question? I guess it's a question.
Yeah, can she repeat the question? I'm sorry, I'm having storms over here and I'm fading in and out. Can she repeat what she said?
So my question, the mayor was citing the proposed change.
Revision.
And one of them was that the person be registered to vote. So then my question is, what are the requirements to registering to vote? It seems to me that might need to be changed as well, because I wouldn't imagine that current law would allow a non-citizen to register to vote. So I just was raising the question as an attorney of what are the further legal implications down the line?
Well, that will definitely be something that needs to be looked at, okay? But registering to vote, I think the way it's proposed right now, if you are a resident for 30 days, okay, then you are qualified to vote, all right? So that makes that process a little easy as far as registering. But there are also provisions that allow you to say if you are registered to vote in the county, then you're automatically registered in municipalities. But I think that will have to be looked at. It will need to be a formal process, but I don't think it'll be anything that's really a heavy lift if the only qualification is that you live in the municipality for 30 days. 45 days. Right.
So my question is, what's the current law around registering to vote in either Edmonston, PG County, or Maryland? What are the requirements for someone to register to vote?
Well, usually, like I said, if you're qualified to vote in the county and you're registered to vote in the county,
how do you get qualified to vote in the county is my question.
I'm sorry?
How would one become qualified to vote in the county is my question.
You would register.
And you'd fill out the application.
And what are you required to do when you fill out the application? Can my 5-year-old neighbor walk in and fill out an application to be registered? What are the requirements?
18. So
No, this
We don't want to do that. We don't want to go back and forth in that because you've already registered to vote. So you know the requirements. We've all basically registered to vote. We know we had to provide. We had to fill out the application. We had to provide whatever information that they asked. So are you getting to something? Is there somewhere you're going so we can go ahead and get there and answer the question?
I mean, maybe the other, I'm simply raising the point. If you are amending a law and you are citing another legal provision, your lawyer should be looking at recognizing down the law how these things play together. If a requirement is that you be registered to vote, then the question on the table now is, what are the requirements for being registered to vote?
So initially, and Judge Deloach, if I could say this, initially, our voter qualifications were those who possess the qualifications necessary to entitle them to register as legally qualified voters of the state of Maryland. That is being taken out because that won't be a requirement for the town election.
Yeah.
That's not what the revision is saying now. So that's how we revised.
I missed what she said.
That's a clarification.
Okay, thank you.
Is that what she was looking for? Okay. Thank you. Judge, while we have you still here, can you mention, we're not going to vote tonight. We wanted to have the hearing, and there is a charter process that we would have to go through if we make a charter change. Can you just go through those steps?
Yeah, that's revising the charter is much more robust than revising the ordinance. Okay. It's mandated by state law, not by our charter or our laws. Okay. So there would be there's a requirement for another public hearing, a public hearing on it. And then there's a robust process that you have to go through. So like the mayor initially said, it could be a charter amendment. It could be done by referendum, but a charter amendment is a big deal. The law requires a state law. It's not a local law that we have to follow.
Tracy, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
As a council person.
Okay.
Okay. I know that 45 days we have in there, you have to be a resident. And to run for council, you have to be a resident for a minimum 1 year.
And be 21.
And be 21. I'm not in favor of this, but if it goes forward, I would like to see that it matches running for council, that you have to have been a resident for 1 year and be 18 or older instead of the 45 days. So I'm just throwing that out for the others on the council to think about.
Thank you, Ms. McCauley. Yeah.
Just a question, Mayor. So, and maybe this is for our attorney or for you. So when can residents expect for the council to take the vote?
That is our judge. Judge Deloach. Is he talking and not?
We can't see him.
I can't tell if he's talking and you're on mute.
And remember, he was saying he was having problems with the storms.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
And I also would like to see the council also have discussion on, instead of 4 council members and the mayor make this decision, do we want to also consider putting it on the next ballot to let the residents have a vote in it? Not to be discussed tonight, to discuss down the road.
And thank you, Ms. McCauley. And Ms. Clifford, you have your hand up. Is that
it didn't go down, or you have it up?
Yeah, I just think
Okay.
I'm
Thanks,
just
Ms. McCollum.
wanting
Yes.
to
Okay.
provide a little bit of clarification. since
Councilmember Serrano
Judge
asked.
Deloach-
Mr. Barnes, can you mute? Sorry.
There we go.
Uh-huh.
Just with respect to the voter registration requirements in the state of Maryland, because all of that would apply to anyone who is currently like eligible to vote, right? Like citizen. In the town of Edmonston. And that's that you just need to prove where you live when you go to apply to register to vote in the state of Maryland. And that can be with an MBA issued license, an ID card, a change of address card, a paycheck, bank statement, utility bill, or some other government document. And I think what maybe Mr. and Ms. Dyson are trying to get clarification on is that because that will not be, because non-citizens in Edmonston would not be registering to vote state of Maryland writ large, then what are going to be our specifications with like the proof of residency that they would need to show? So it sounds like we have right now the proposal is 45 days before the next municipal election. So they would need to show something that they have been have a residence in Edmonston for at least 45 days prior to the first municipal election, to the next municipal election. And I am not sure right now if our proposal sufficiently addresses that.
I think they have to be able to show a government ID with the address of the town of Edmonston as their address.
Right.
But I also think we should make it a year. It's the same as running for council, that they're a resident for at least a year. And that would only accept government ID, not a mail to their house or anything like that. They got to have a Maryland issued or government ID saying that they live in the town town of Edmonston.
Mayor, Judge Deloach is having the horrible time. He's trying to go to his truck to get on, but I believe Councilmember Serrano asked about when it could be a vote. Well, the charter process takes a number of months. You introduce the charter, you have a public hearing, there's multiple votes, there's opportunity for a referendum after that. And so you go on summer recess for August, so the earliest that this would come back for conversation and discussion would be September.
Is the language available somewhere online so that we could look at it? The proposed language?
What I read this evening?
That would be helpful.
Yeah, we can put that online.
Right.
And then also in between time, the council can meet and we can talk about what the provisions would be as far as what they would have to provide in order to vote if we should go forward with it. And or if we should wait until our next election. We can consider all of that. So once we meet, we can talk about that, council. Okay, but we
Mayor,
can
just
put
for-
that
I'm sorry, for a point
online.
of clarification, it's not, I thought our town attorney was saying that we've got a couple options, that it could be a charter amendment or it could be a referendum.
It has to be, I think it's going to be both, actually.
Charter ordinances are subject to referendum. So if once the charter ordinance is approved, and if there's a petition filed by sufficient number of signatures, then it can be put on the ballot, forced to be on the ballot.
Okay, I think I would like some clarification on that from him, because I thought he was saying we could do a referendum or
Yeah, you
charter
can
plus referendum.
elect to just take it directly to a referendum vote and then create the legislation once the question is asked at an election and the results of that election. And you don't have to even, you won't, typically on something like this, it would be a question. It wouldn't be a binding action on your part. So you would have the whatever the results might be from the 2026 election. That's when the next election is, May
Yeah,
2026. And so you could take whatever action you want then after that. The council with home rule has great ability and authority to do what needs to be done for the good and of the community. And so there's a number of options. And so Judge Deloach obviously can go through all of those in great detail.
Yeah, we've only amended the charter once since I've been on the council, so this is
Right. We
familiar
rarely
territory for me.
we very
so,
rarely
yeah.
do it because there's not those are the real basic laws, and then the ordinances are where the other laws are done, and those are easier for you to do with 2 readings and introduction. So it's set up purposefully so that it is a process that takes time and allows the opportunity to get lots of input and feedback from the residents and the people that are being impacted.
Thanks, Rod.
All right, so have we answered the majority of the questions? Does everyone kind of feel like they've been heard? That's the important thing about a hearing or open comments and this type of discussion. I wanted to ensure that we talked about it, that some information was provided, and I believe that everyone that spoke today, and thank you, Ms. Dyson, for your comment. I believe everyone that spoke today provided some type of knowledge for us to be more informed about where we're going, how we're moving forward. So I thank you again for being here and your input as we move forward, whether we vote for it or not. All right, so thanks again. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and move on with our meeting. You can feel free to drop out should you like to. If you're hungry, you need to eat your dinner or whatever it is, you have other things to do. We're going to just move forward with our meeting and go to the maybe boring stuff, but you can also stay on if you'd like to. So our next item is just the approval of our, no, we have a presentation. Are they here? Mr. Barnes?
Yes, he's
Oh,
checking.
Mr. Oh, okay, there you go. Okay. So we have a presentation from Obvio.
That's
Did I
right.
say it right? You'll say it right.
Yeah, Obvio.
Yeah, Obvio, and it's the traffic monitoring equipment. So go ahead, I'm going to let you go, Mr. Haru.
Dhruv.
Say it for us.
Hey everyone, my name is Dhruv. Great to present. Hopefully not considered, boring news for the rest of the council. And hope everyone can just take a deep breath. That was an amazing discussion. Really cool to see how engaged everyone was. And hopefully I can make this presentation brief and fun and interesting, and we'll have some videos and multimedia content. Keep the energy going. I know you guys have a lot on your agenda. So let me just try to share my screen. I don't have, oh, someone just made me the co-host. Awesome. So we're Avio, and hopefully folks here have heard about the stop sign enforcement camera. Chief Beal, were you able to discuss it with the group in a previous meeting?
No, I wasn't. We had went into the 4th of July holiday weekend once we deployed the camera. So I'll let you talk about it.
Okay, sounds good. So for everybody else, in April, there was a bill passed called HB 364. And it was really meant to target the amount of stop sign running that happens in our communities. We've noticed that a lot of people skip stop signs, and it's led to many incidents with a lot of children and pedestrians across Prince George's County. And the bill was basically saying, similar to speed cameras and red light cameras, there's now going to be stop sign cameras. And this allows us to deter drivers from skipping stop signs. And this makes it safer for pedestrians, especially for people who are, just trying to enjoy their communities and not worry about the cut through traffic. And so that's sort of the context of what's been going on in Prince George's. And Avio is a Silicon Valley based company that's here to offer a solution that can help with the stop sign enforcement. And so I'll kind of give a quick presentation about our product and some of the data that we've actually collected in Edmonston. So just thought I'd kick that off. Curious, do we need a little bit of a break after the discussion, or should we just roll it right in?
No, we're good. We're good. That was a good discussion. We're all in a good place.
Awesome. Sounds great. So a quick intro on Avio. My name is Drew. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Avio. We are a company based in Silicon Valley. So, I had some experience working at Google and LinkedIn. A lot of our team are technologists. We worked on things like the iPhone and Android, Google search. And one of the key questions that we had was, for all of us who use smartphones and iPhones and Androids, they're such modern, elegant devices. They're simple. They can do so many things. And we sort of thought, why can't technology for public safety do that as well? And so we built technology meant to be encompassing and versatile. And as we've built our product, we actually have really expanded our presence in Maryland. I myself actually moved to this area over the course of the last few months just to be on the ground here and get to know the communities a little bit better. So we have the DNA of Silicon Valley and we have a local presence as well. We've been hearing about issues all across the country related to traffic safety. It's a constant source of complaints from citizens. Unfortunately, a lot of police departments are stretched really thin right now. And unfortunately, as a result, people are just getting hurt. And it's funny because for so many other industries, airplane crashes don't happen anymore. We've gotten better and better at that. Somehow, for vehicles and driving, it's gotten a little bit worse. Now, the kind of approaches that we've seen, you have crossing guards that can't be there 24/7. It's tough to have somebody out there in the heat, in the snow. We've seen some people put flags on stop signs to get a little bit more attention. There's some people who've even put stop signs on top of stop signs to see if they can get it under control. But what we've realized is, the real way that you stop unsafe driving is with proper deterrence, and that's where Avio comes in. And so, we had a chance to bring our product to all sorts of different types of roadways across Prince George's. We were in Cottage City, Brentwood, Forest Heights, Colmar, and what we've noticed is there's hundreds of violations happening on a given day. And in any single one of these violations, if there happens to be, a kid going through with a bicycle, it can lead to a big incident. And so we built Avio's AI traffic solution. And so it's a very simple solar powered pole, and the camera can pick up all sorts of violations like stop sign violations, pedestrian crossings, other behaviors like speeding, whether people are driving using their cell phone. And as per the new bill, we'll be doing automated enforcement on the stop signs. And so, we've seen that you can have a 70% decrease in traffic violations. What's special about our product is it's solar powered, so you can be live within days. And the beauty of the whole system is that it's cost neutral. So it's free to get started. As soon as the ticket revenue comes in, we'll take a portion of that to cover our program costs, and the rest goes back to the town. So essentially, there's no impact to the budget. It's a free public safety tool, and it'll also potentially generate a little bit of revenue for the town as well. In terms of how we detect different types of behaviors, here's a quick video that shows the kinds of videos that we collect. So you can see it's pretty high definition. This is at a tot lot right in Cottage City. You can see people skipping the stop sign. They didn't even slow down. And we've seen this behavior, repeatedly. Here's an example in Forest Heights where you see somebody blow through a stop sign and speed at the same time. That's sort of like the power of our technology, is you can kind of detect multiple behaviors at once. And, most importantly, you can see when a really risky scenario happens. And so, in this situation, you see a vehicle, they come to a rolling stop. If you look at it, it's not really that big of a deal. but they almost hit someone. And that's something where you really want to take action. You really want to give a ticket to this driver. Other systems may not be able to detect and determine the nuances of the fact that there's some violations that are just a lot riskier and more dangerous than others. And so it kind of tells you a little bit about the versatility of our system. And in addition, we can detect things like reckless driving. Again, here in Cottage City, we had an example where we saw someone cut around somebody else. You know, this is a scenario where it just feels unsafe. You know, and it would be even more unsafe if there are pedestrians walking through here. You don't want your roadways to look like this. So Avio's system is meant to detect a lot of these behaviors, give the kind of data and insight to council members and mayors and police departments to understand the peak times, the repeat offenders, and we'll also be doing automated citations to different drivers. Here's what our technology looks like. As you can see, it's pretty simple and elegant. There's high definition camera sensors. It's internet connected, so you get automatically instant video uploads. And there's a 200-watt solar panel that ensures power all year round. And so, you know, the goal is to make something that's simple, easy to use, fast-paced. And what's really special, similar to an iPhone, is that it's never obsolete. So you have a device that keeps updating. And so with the same camera, you can start detecting more kinds of violations. You can do traffic insights like pedestrians, bicycle trends, and then you can have investigations data. If you're looking for a certain license plate or a make model vehicle, you can search through our database of videos and see if you can find these. And so truly the goal here is, how do we build something that's perfect for public safety, zero cost to the town, and something that improves over time? So that's broadly the Avio product. And one of the things that we've done and that we've started doing with Edmonston is we have a pilot program where we've taken our trailer, we've deployed it in different locations. We started with 52nd and Decatur, and we started gathering data to kind of show you what are the kinds of numbers that you actually have here in your town. And what I thought I'd do is, before I show you the numbers, curious if anyone has any guesses for how many violations we see on a given day.
1,000.
20.
Did someone say 20?
Yeah.
Wait a minute, one said 1,000, one said 20.
Wow, we got a good range there. Anyone else?
Betsy, we live on the same street.
I know.
You got to get in the middle. 60.
60.
750 then.
Yeah,
I know
you
how many times, I know how
price
many
is right.
can I see them run the stop sign, and the 20 is probably the first hour in the morning.
Yeah. I mean, so you know, we were pretty surprised to see the data as well. You know, these are 3 different days, and we have a little bit more. We're seeing close to 1,000 violations, 1,400 violations a day. I will say they're not all the worst violations. There are many rolling stops in here. But what we do is we actually take the violations, we break them up into low, medium, and high violations. And so we can break it down further for you. But on average, we're seeing close to 1,000 violations, 1,500 violations. And that's close to 90% of people. I see, are you on mute, Mayor?
Oh, no. No.
One thing that's amazing, look how many vehicles are going just one direction a day. The average vehicles we have.
Yeah, it's a lot of traffic. This street certainly sees a lot. And what I thought I'd do is I'd play some of the videos just so you have a sense of what the violations look like. Again, this is a slightly inflated number because it includes the rolling stops. Depending on how you all want to cite and enforce, the number will go down. But let me just share my screen really quick to show you some of these videos.
Is your data able to let us know around what time is the time frame of when most violations happen?
Yeah, and I'll pull that up actually in a sec just so you can take a look. But you know, here's some of the kinds of examples that we see. very, very clearly not stopping. They seem to slow down a little bit. Can you guys see my screen okay? Is it playing?
Yes.
Okay. Let me play another one for you.
I don't think it played. I think we just seen like a screenshot of it. All right, there you go.
Played. Did that play okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now let me do another one. How about this? Was this the same one?
No.
Okay. Let me play another one.
That was Mr. Kaufman.
Yeah, that's exactly who that was. No, that's not his.
I was just teasing. It was a black Jeep.
I would say he's already paid for a red light camera. Why not?
Yeah,
Stop?
yeah.
So, you know, in terms of the actual numbers, let me pull up the dashboard so you all can kind of get a sense of the violation numbers. So typically what we do is we can create this dashboard and you know, you can see the numbers that I filled in on the spreadsheet. Here you can see the breakdown between medium violations and severe violations. So out of the 1,000, you know, you might see 200 severe violations a day, where it's sort of clearly a violation of the law, and 533 medium violations, which is, again, they didn't come to a complete stop. It's maybe going a little bit slower than the severe violations. And then in terms of the peak times, what you notice is as you get to midday, 3 p.m. to 3 p.m. is sort of where you see the peak. And then it kind of goes down during 6, 7 p.m. So this kind of gives you a sense of how it changes throughout the day. And so we have a couple other locations. We're going to be gathering data for Buchanan and 51st. I think the chief's given us another location to take a look at. But just to give you all a little bit more of a sense, so typically once we finish the pilot program, it can help you understand, you know, how bad the problem is. Is it worth putting a stop sign camera up there? How many tickets can you expect maybe on day one versus, you know, the number will reduce drastically after you put a camera up, which is the goal. And then, you know, our entire enforcement program does the whole thing in terms of, you know, it'll capture the event. We'll do a review to make sure the event is a real violation. We'll send it over to the police department for their approval. Once they approve it, we send out citations. We handle the payment processing from drivers. At the end of the month, we basically just write a check over to the city of, hey, here's how much you earned after we've taken out some of our costs. And you know, the key thing is the way that we've structured the contract is that the cost is always going to be covered by revenue. There's never anything where we would take anything from the city budget. And part of the reason is that our technology is so low and cost efficient that we can support a business model like this. And so the goal is to be free for towns at the beginning and no impact to the budget for the rest of the program.
Judge Deloach, did you have a chance to see if we have the authority to do this or if this is a county decision?
That the law says that any location that is you want to put these stop signs and this automated stop sign has to be approved by the county council. Okay, so that's one of the requirements. That's one of the, you know, I don't think we have the unilateral authority. We initially have to approve the system, but the location is a different story.
Drew, you mentioned some other communities. has the county approved those locations?
So up until now, the communities that we're working with were just doing pilot programs similar to what Edmonston's doing today. But the bill only went into effect July 1st, so there was no possibility to do this prior to this. But we've been in touch with a few folks in the county council, Jolene Ivy and a couple of others, and they basically told us when a town or municipality is interested in moving forward with the program, they can simply write a letter of intent and approval, which basically says, here are the 4 locations that we want these cameras in. Here's the data that we've collected that suggests that this is a real problem. They're near school zones. These need to be near school zones. And once you send it to the county council, they let us know that in the next county council meeting, within a couple weeks, they will review these and approve them. And so no one has gone through that process yet, given that the bill just went into effect on July 1st. But we've been closely in touch with the county council, and there's 2 other municipalities for which we're drafting the letters for the county council in the next week or so. And so, by the time, if you all choose to move forward, by the time you go about it, there will have been a couple other municipalities that have gone through the process.
Drew, we're going through a bad situation right now with cameras, systems on collecting fines. When you said the revenue always covers the cost, but how much revenue does the company get, and how much percentage does the town get of the revenue?
Yeah, so when you say you're having problems, what do you mean?
Yeah, we're not going to go into that.
Okay.
I'll go into that with you in a separate conversation, but
no problem.
Yeah, so I guess I'm saying that because we're a little gun shy, and we're not going to jump on something that you're going to make a ton of money and we're going to make very little money.
They overpromised and have utterly underdelivered.
I see. So the way that we're operating, we're sort of like building sort of like a modern company here, and the goal here is not to generate tons of revenue and take most of it for ourselves. Essentially, what we do is once we've figured out the number of violations that you guys are getting, we plug it into a formula and figure out what the right pricing is. But the goal is to ensure that you guys are making a reasonable amount in terms of the split. So legislation doesn't allow us to do like a perfect revenue share. The legislation says we can't charge on a per ticket issue basis. We can't charge on the revenue coming in basis either. All we can do is charge on the number of activities that we're taking, whether that includes DMV lookups and mailing out citations. And so there is some processing charges that we take on to do all of that work. Now, that's how the contract is laid out. In practice, what we're trying to end at is something where you guys are making 55% of the revenue at the end of the day, and the rest of it is covering our costs, and some of it comes to us as well.
Thank you. That I didn't ask. I mean, I don't expect you to get down to the nitty-gritty till we get into the contract, but that just gives me some idea at least. And we've worked with that kind of split on a red light camera for a number of years, so it sounds like it's much similar.
And again, like our goal, one of the things that's special about our technology, because it's solar powered, because it's a kind of like AI powered system, it's actually considerably cheaper than existing red light providers and existing speed camera providers. And so we can end up offering a better rate than other providers. And with red light, the fees tend to be a little bit higher. The stop sign violation fee is $40. So there's a little bit less in terms of overall revenue that's generated. But we're happy to work with you to find a payment scheme that feels the most fair to you.
Yeah, I think Councilmember Tuberville has a question. You're muted, Sarah.
Thank you. Thanks, Rod. Trev, can you tell us how powerful the cameras are? Because it looked like one of the categories that you all can issue tickets for, like cell phone usage. That means that your cameras can see inside people's vehicles. Is that right?
Yeah, so let me be clear about those different kinds of features. Some of those features are baked into the existing camera, and it works with that camera. For additional features, what we would do is we would come in and attach another sensor to the same kind of pole, and that would allow for additional features. Now, the way that we've built the product is similar to an iPhone, where you can download the different apps that you want. Our camera can also add different capabilities depending on what you want. So if you say, we only want stop signs, we don't want the sensor that'll look into people's vehicles, we don't want any sort of speed detection, we don't want anything else, our cameras will only do the stop sign detection. If you choose to do something like cell phone, or eventually we'll offer a seatbelt violation, we would come attach another sensor to the camera that would allow it to look inside people's vehicles, but that would be up to you to decide if and when you want that.
Okay. And that ability, of course exists. It's like basically scanning people to see if they're violating the law at that point, right?
That's right. And one thing to be very clear on, the way that we're building cell phone distraction and seatbelt violations is that we're actually anonymizing the face. And so all you see are the hands of someone on top of the steering wheel and the upper torso. And so, again, we believe in sort of being a privacy-focused company. And so when we do build that feature into the system, we're trying to do so in a way that protects people's privacy, and we don't do any sort of facial recognition either.
You don't do any facial recognition tech? Okay.
Zero.
Are you?
And we're not planning on. As a company, we have a stance against it.
Okay. What about other things that you would do with the data that you collect, right? Like the license plate numbers, for example. What other entities might you be sharing that information with besides the town of Edmonston, if we were to contract with you for this?
Right. So the only other place where that data would go external to like Obvio and the town of Edmonston is potentially the DMV, because if people don't pay their, the first thing that we do is we take the license plate and we have to fetch who that record is. And so we will send the license plate to the DMV and say, is this, who do we send this letter to? And secondly, if they don't end up paying, we will send that information over to the DMV to flag that license plate and potentially send it to a collections agency to also try to collect those fees. Outside of that, we're not sending this information anywhere else.
Okay. Are you selling it anywhere else? Like
No.
to data brokers or?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
And we, even to interface with the DMV, we're signing a lot of paperwork and security protocols that also kind of protect the privacy. We've signed many contracts that basically say like this data is used for this purpose and this purpose only.
Okay. Thank you.
Drew, we have a couple questions in the chat. What does it look like at night?
I guess that's probably a question about the video quality.
Yes.
Right. So here is one slide that shows the license plate in terms of nighttime. So as you can see, we have an IR that illuminates the license plate. And so as a result, you have a pretty high quality read on the license plate itself. Then in terms of the actual video, let me just pull up one on the dashboard and hopefully you'll get a sense. And this is one where, let's see. Six a.m. 6 a.m. is still pretty bright. And these are all videos that were oh, we went to 4 p.m. already. I'll pull up a video as we chat of a nighttime video, but in general, pretty good illumination, as you can see from the license plate reader. I'll just pull one up and we can answer the next question as I fetch one.
Okay. And then if it doesn't do facial recognition, how are you fuzzing out faces?
So in most of the videos that we're collecting, I'll just share a screen again. they're all coming from the rear. And so typically you don't really capture faces. Now, when you have pedestrians going by, bicyclists going by, and maybe a potential person driving by, again, in our process, typically what we do is we have a audio review before it goes to the police department. And so during that process, we would have the team sort of flag that this is a face, and our AI technology would actually blur that face as well.
Okay, and do you have human intervention in the whole process? I mean, obviously our police officers have to review it physically, but do you also have human people involved, not just AI?
That's right. So this audio review step is basically every single time a video is detected, we have a team of reviewers that will be reviewing the footage. One, to make sure it's high quality and an actual violation, and two, to obscure anything from a privacy standpoint. This is pretty common practice for all automated traffic enforcement vendors. Your red light providers and speed camera providers likely do the same.
And then I think you might have answered this, but can you speak to your data security protocols?
Absolutely. With again, whenever we're accessing any sort of data that's sensitive from the DMV doing this kind of video support, we've had to build a pretty secure system, which means any audio reviewer that accesses the data has had, background tracing. They've signed different waivers that suggest that they're not going to be using this data for any purpose other than automated traffic enforcement. Our systems itself are built on AWS on their government instance, which is meant to handle sort of secure municipal level data. And so there's sort of multiple places that we ensure that the only people who have access to data are people who are qualified, which is both internal to Obvio as well as the police department. And then two, the systems itself are secure and built on AWS and other sort of protocols that are pretty hard to penetrate.
All right, thank you, Drew. And then I think the last question, and I know that we got other things on the agenda and the mayor will want to move on, but what about, does Avio affiliate legal entities? Are there any? Not sure I understand.
I mean, Avio is just one company.
Yeah,
we
okay.
have one corporation. There's no associated entities related to Avio.
Okay, thank you. Sarah, did you have a question?
I did. My question's for Judge Loach. Judge, the new law, with respect to what it describes as a school zone, right? For like the longest time, we weren't able to do any sort of automated traffic enforcement because we weren't close enough to a school zone. Would that be the same thing here, or is the definition of school zone going to look different than what it's looked in the past?
I think the definition of the school zone is going to be close to what it was before.
Okay, so this might actually be a mooted out conversation in that case, because we don't have any school zones in Edmonston.
It could end up being, but with the county council being the ultimate decision maker here, there may be some wiggle room to help in this situation. But that is definitely a concern.
Okay.
One of the issues we were thinking of in this particular location is that it's a school bus loading zone for the children, loading and unloading. And so creating a school zone in that particular section of Decatur and 52nd could be a potential. Correct, Judge?
Yep. But we definitely need to do our due diligence on that. But that would be, that would fit definitely into what they're trying to capture as far as safety of children. Okay. But whether or not it fits neatly into the law with regard to school zones, that's another question. But it's a good place to start there. Because
Maybe
definitely
we could get some clarification on that first, so we can get that question out of the way.
Is that anything your company assists with?
Yeah, so there's a little bit of research that a couple other municipalities are doing actively, similarly. The town of Colmar Manor as well as Cottage City have been looking into it. There's a couple of definitions that we've seen. So the Maryland DOT has a definition of a school zone that's slightly different than what we've seen in legislation. The Maryland DOT defined the school zone as Anything where there's a school within half a mile, or there's school related activities, including walkways where a lot of children are walking back and forth, school buses would qualify under that DOT definition. In terms of further recommendations, so the town of Glenarden as well as Colmar Manor are thinking about designating a specific area as a school zone. So, you know, a municipality has the ability to designate whatever they want as a school zone. And so again, it in some ways, it depends on the town's discretion, whether they want to appropriate something as a school zone so that it fits the letter of the law, or whether they want to apply anyways for the council and ask for the council to make a decision. So those are sort of the multiple ways that we've seen different municipalities going about it. Again, because the bill just passed on July 1st, everybody's just at the beginning of this. And so, you know, as a vendor, you know, we can't control the law. We're not, we don't want to bend the rules. Like we want to follow the rules. And so we're sort of leaning on attorneys and town council attorneys to sort of make a call for their town.
But you say July 1st, that's not when it passed. That's when it came into effect.
That's right.
Right. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for the presentation and the information that you provided. Is that all the questions from the council? Or comments? All righty. Thank you.
Thank you.
You can feel free to stay, or you can go ahead and leave us if you'd like. Like most people do. Okay, I've done my time. See you later. All right. Thank you so much, though. We appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Great to meet you all.
Take care. All righty. Thank you, council, for your questions. We appreciate it. And Chief. All right. So as we move on, to our new business, I will accept a motion to approve our minutes from June 12th, the Town Council Work Session Meeting Minutes, the June 12th Town Council Regular Council Meeting Minutes, as well as the June 12th Council Closed Session Meeting Minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Was that Ms. Tuberville? I'm sorry, Ms. McCauley?
Yeah.
I'll second.
I'll second.
All right, Ms. Tuberville, and thank you, Ms. Serrano, second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thanks so much. The next item is the consideration of award of bid to professional lawn maintenance services for the construction of our rain gardens on Buchanan Street in the amount of $75,068.50.
I'll make the motion.
All righty. Thank you so much, Ms. McCauley. And is there a second?
Second.
I'll second.
All right, Ms. Serrano. And
That was Tuberville.
Oh, Ms. Tuberville. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Tuberville. All right. And it is from the CBT PGC Stormwater Management Grant that our town administrator wrote. All right. There's a motion and a second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Thank you so much. All right, that motion passes. The next item is the presentation on the proposed changes to the town's parking issues. And I'm going to turn that to our chief, Chief Bill.
Good evening. So over the last couple of weeks, or roughly a month or so, we've been getting a lot of parking complaints. We've issued out plenty of parking tickets, mainly with the issue of being parking permits. We've also noticed that most of the parking permits are visitor permits. And before I started here in Edmonston, I noticed that there was no way that we was keeping track of how many permits each resident or each visitor had. And so you might have one household who has 2 visitor parking permits and one that has 5. I also noticed that some of the businesses in town have residents who visit parking permits to park on permitted only, such as in Hamilton. So my game plan that I came up with, and if it's approved by the mayor and town council, is I redesigned a whole new parking permit for just for visitors, not the residential ones. The ones you already have as a resident, that will stay the same. However, the permit for visitors would change. It's going to be still the hanging type of permit. The only thing is we will be able to keep more tabs on it. So if you have a driveway, you'll issue probably 1 to 2 permits. And if you don't have a driveway, 2 to 3 permits. The first phase in the transitional period is once I already placed the order for the permits. But once everything goes through, the first phase was send out flyers, give out information, letting residents know how to obtain these permits. That will last for 30 days. Then the second phase will be another 30-day phase where we will actually go out, and if officers identify or see that someone has a visitor permit, instead of writing a ticket, they will actually go to that homeowner's door and say, hey, here's the information that you will need in order to obtain a visitor's permit. Their resident will come up to the station. The first set of permits will be given free of charge to the residents. However, if the resident loses that permit or is damaged, they will come up to the town of Edmonston town hall, file a police report with the police officer, and then pay $150 to replace it. That way we know that a lot of times, a lot of residents, not all, but some are obtaining multiple visitor permits, whether they're renting a house illegally, whether it's Airbnb or just not telling the town that they have a renter. And it's causing a huge parking issue on some of the streets in town where you as a homeowner, you know that you may or you may not know that your neighbor is renting a house, and they're renting a house with somebody who has 5 cars. And now you don't have anywhere to park your cars or have your business come over because now that next door neighbor who's renting his house, they just had 5 more cars show up on that small street. So once everything starts up and running, we won't actually have any violations issued till probably later in October, once we know or feel comfortable that most of the residents, if not all the residents, have transitioned over to the new permit. Is there any questions or concerns in reference to the parking permit? Any new ideas? I think I sent out a PDF to the council on what it would look like. I'm waiting for the proof to come back. Once they send me the proof, I'll email it what the official proof would look like before we go ahead and approve it for printing.
Ms. Serrano, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, what are the rules around the parking lot that's across the street from the rec center?
So we don't have too much say so over there because it's still managed by Maryland Parking Planning. The only thing we do is we have what we call mutual agreements with Maryland Parking Planning. So a lot of times if a call for service come out via 911, the Edmonston Police Department, we will respond there. We don't really take proactive measures there because again, it still falls within Maryland Park jurisdiction.
So if, let's say, someone is having a big event in their home and they only have 3 permits, but they're expecting 20 guests, could we potentially give that as an alternative to residents?
Yes, and we also still give out the waivers. So if you know that you have an event at your residence, just come to town hall. We will print you out once I approve it or once the lieutenant approves the permit. We will actually give you a piece of paper that the visitors can put in their window, and that waives them for any permit and parking. The only thing it won't waive them for is if they park next to a fire hydrant, if they park on a crosswalk or block somebody's driveway. But far as just parking on a permitted street and they don't have a permit, that piece of paper will suffice the entire course of the event.
Do residents have a limit of how many times they can request this waiver?
No. If you have 5 events, you have 5 events. If you have 2, you can have as many as you want.
Thank you, Chief.
And Daria is very quick at for people that might have waited to the last minute to ask for a waiver. Just hypothetically speaking.
And normally myself and the lieutenant, we're here till 9 o'clock at night, so it'll get signed. Any other questions? That is all I have in reference to the parking permits. Hope everybody likes it. Hopefully it will eliminate some of the parking issues in town.
Yeah.
Make it a little bit better.
Yeah, hopefully. Thank you. Thanks so much. What you're doing. And so, Chief, don't go away. The next item is the consideration of creating a school zone at 52nd and Decatur. Chief?
That's what we talked about in reference to the stop sign cameras. So I had to talk to Rod and the council and Judge DeLoach a little bit more about it, so that way we can get the proper information to go about it the right way.
Mm-hmm. Cool. All right, thank you. And so go ahead and do your report.
All righty, so for the code enforcement report, Steve is he is doing a wonderful job every day. He has been going out hand delivering to the businesses that still are within negative standards with the county, whether it's a tax issue or UNO permit issue. He's been going after them, and we're not issuing town permits to businesses who are in good standards with the state of Maryland or within Prince George's County. He had issued out 37 rental inspection permits. He's also scheduled 25 rental permits to be, actually the rental inspection notices went out. He did 7 follow-ups for code enforcement and issued 17 business standing verified warning, which is the people that's in bad, the business that's in bad standards. He's still in contact with WSSC in order to get the lot on Buchanan Street mowed and get that taken care of. I did notice that they're starting to park vehicles inside that gate at Buchanan, so I'm guessing now that WSSC has started moving their vehicles within that fence line at the 5,000 block of Buchanan.
Chief, that's Washington Gas.
Oh, he had WSSC. Thank you, Rod. Thank you. Any questions in reference to the code of enforcement? Next is the police department. We're doing pretty good. We're finally fully staffed, but of course, with that, it's the training of everything. The new laws have been pushed out for the police department. I'm going to split the department into 2. So each officer will take part of a ward. So Ward 1 will have 2 officers, Ward 2 will have 2 officers. And what I want them to do was, while they are proactively patrolling the town, is to document any code violations, parking violations, address any type of suspicious activity, and report that to me or the lieutenant at the end or the 15th of every month. That way I can get an idea of what's going on in the town. I actively patrol the town as well as the lieutenant, but a lot of times I might miss something as well as the lieutenant. But a lot of the patrol officers, they're here for 10 to 12 hours. And if they help out with code enforcement, they can give him any ideas or any violations that he could follow up on. And that way I can kind of keep my ear close to the ground if I miss something, that if it's code related, parking related, or suspicious activity, we can get it addressed. For parking citations, last month they issued 11 parking citations, 85 moving violations, which means those are traffic violations within the town. 0 traffic arrests. We conducted 47 premise checks, which means different locations inside the town that the officers posted up at just to be more visible in town. Conducted 66 traffic stops, 6 impounds, and answered 161 calls for service last month here in June. Any questions for the police department? We're still working on
I have one, Chief.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
More of a comment. So just, I wonder if you've thought about with dividing like the officers between the 2 wards, that there's definitely, I think, sort of like disparate resources though or different needs within the 2 wards. So population wise with residents we're about even, but I think Ward 1 has a far more like physical territory and all the businesses in town.
Are you really talking about Ward 1, Ward 2, or are you talking about across the bridge?
Across the bridge. The bridge is going to be the split. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So it's basically like how Prince George's County has it, where each part of the county is split into different sectors, and within that sector is a beat.
Okay.
And it's more so it gets not even the community, but one side of the community get to know the officers. The officers get to know each resident, and that's not something permanent where, okay, these 2 officers are going to stay strictly on this side of the town. They're going to rotate out. So every 2 or 3 months, they're flipping to basically switch sides. So that way each resident or each officer gets to know each resident, how it's fast in town, know what they're looking for, and know that they can do the code enforcement job as well too. So it's mainly basically giving the officers more to do during the long stretches course, because right now we're doing more traffic stops and more premise checks than enforcement. And it's not to be an over aggressive police department towards the residents. A lot of residents, I'm getting emails for parking violation, noise complaints. So I figure if I pinpoint an officer to a location, I know who to contact when it's parking violation on Lafayette.
No, I think that's great. I just wanted to clarify then, because
Oh, yeah, no,
dividing it by ward,
yeah.
it's actually going to be a very like asymmetrical situation. So
Yeah, so it's just the split of the
that's right.
bridge.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Good concept.
We're also working on the Explorer program. I typed up everything. We're just waiting for our representative from Boy Scout of America to get with us because they're going to be doing a presentation. And what the Police Explorer program is a way for the police department to build a relationship with the youth. You can start as young as 14 up to the age of 20. Meet up every Wednesday or Thursday. I haven't decided a date yet. Officer Smith, she's going to be leading the Explorers. They go to competitions, they'll get uniforms, which is basically a Police Explorer t-shirt, BDU pants. And what we're going to do is when they meet up with us, meet us at the rec, the first hour is academic, help them with homework, help them with any study work. The second hour will be more physical, nothing like boot camp type, but just something where they can like stay motivated, stay in physical condition, and then we go into different scenarios. Prince George's County Police has one, Bladensburg Police has one, Mount Rainier, and Carter City. And what I want to do is put them all together, have different tournaments, stuff like that, so that way they see a different side of the police department versus, oh, this police officer just pull people over, lock people up. No, I want them to actually see what it's like. And it doesn't mean they have to be a police officer. They can go into the military. They can do whatever they want. This is just something to kind of create a little bit of structure and get them something to do in the wee hours of the summer and in the fall time.
Very good.
That's all I have.
All right. Councilmember Serrano, yes, you had a question.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't know if this question's for Chief or just for Ron, but is there a reason why we always have, so at the end of the shorter trail that leads to the rec center, there is a metal, just sort of like barrier that always stays open. Is there a reason why we always keep it open?
As long as I've been, I never had a key to that. That's normally something that Maryland Park controls. Because there's also another gate at the back of the park that we don't have the key to. Whenever we have an event that leads to that part of the park, we have to notify, or at least myself or Raw have to notify Maryland Park, and they come out and they unlock it for us. Maryland Park Police have a key to each community center and each gate. We don't, neither does Prince George's County Police. So most likely they don't even have a lock for it, or they don't have the key for it.
It's never been locked.
I would just put it out there for us to consider asking them to close it. It's already happened a few times that I've either seen motorcycles on that trail. Last week I was walking my dog and almost got run over by one because I had headphones in. I did not hear it coming. And when I turned around, it literally missed me by an inch. And I know you've been keeping track, Chief, and you've talked to a few folks already, but I feel like this is an issue that unless we actually put a physical barrier that doesn't allow them to go in, we won't have much control over it. And there's a lot of children there. There's a lot of folks that walk their dogs there, and it's just a really unsafe situation for everybody.
Yeah, I could call Maryland Park. I have their number to the dispatch. And if I need to, I could call their deputy chief. She's pretty cool, and see if we can have an officer lock it at night. If it's time consuming, not for the officer, but if they can come out in the middle of their shift or towards the end and just lock it at night.
Doesn't sound like you're talking about at night though, right?
No, I think it should be locked all day. Honestly, I mean, I was out there at around 4 and this was going on. I mean, it's.
So you're talking about the trail.
You're talking about the short trail.
Yeah, I'm talking about the short trail.
So what does that mean for bikes that are going down that short trail? I know for walkers will be able to go there, but what about our bikers? Will they be able to go off on the side to come out if we lock it or have access to it?
I mean, I think so. I don't know what other solution there is, but I've seen it a lot. And I don't know if Betsy has seen it. I know she walks that trail a lot, but it's just been happening pretty often where there's motorbikes out there.
Maybe a solution could be we could pay attention to it, Chief. Maybe there's a sign, we could get park and planning to put a sign up there. Maybe they can have a park police officer.
I think it is some signs that say no more.
Not on the short trail.
Oh.
Maybe there's a way.
Maybe
we could ask them about a different kind of barrier, one that
yeah.
potentially,
Makes it smaller or like narrows the entrance.
yeah, I mean, I don't know what that would be that would allow bicycles to get through, but not those little
The
motorized bikes.
motor, yeah.
And so the only thing with the scooters and the mopeds is they 90% of the time don't stop for us. We done seen them go through stop signs on Decatur Street. We done seen them, go through
Mhm.
speed
Right.
red lights. And the minute we try to pull them over, I had one who actually parks it in town. He ran 3 stop signs in front of me. The only reason he stopped is that he got stuck between a box truck. And we impounded that moped. He came and got it 3 days later and did the exact same thing when he got it back. But for him, we haven't seen him in a while. But 90% of them, once they see that we get behind them, they don't stop, and we don't pursue them once they're on a 2-wheel vehicle. And neither is Prince George's County. So it's not nothing that I'm just going to say that we can't do anything about it. It's ways to get them. It just takes a little time.
Yeah, yeah. Because we also use that trail, Ms. Serrano, for when we have our trash, when we're cleaning the river area, we bring our motorized gym through there. So I don't know that they would necessarily agree with locking it. But we could come up with something. I get what you're saying, and I know safety is an issue, but we should probably put parking planning on, maybe having some patrol there, watching that area for us. Maybe we can start out, Chief, but like you said, I believe all jurisdictions, they can't stop those darn mopeds, those things.
I don't know how DC is doing it, but they're recovering. I think last week they did 171.
And some people just don't have any regard for those who are walking and children. They're just going zoom. I get what you're saying, Ms. Serrano. So let's have a conversation about that. Let's think about that. Think about some options we could have to present to park plan. Okay, Ms. Serrano?
That sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Chief, you have anything else?
That's all I have, Mayor.
Anything else for our chief? All right, Mr. Barnes?
Not very much. I know it's getting late and everybody's ready to have the meeting over. Just a couple things. I wanted to thank everybody that in the heat the other night, we had the party on the bridge and we had the largest crowd I think we've ever had. 150 plus residents came and watched the fireworks in Bladensburg. And so thank the police department for all their effort and making that happen. And it was just a great time on the bridge for everybody having fun. We hosted the American Bloom Advisors Monday and Tuesday. They were particularly impressed with how clean the city was. They talked about it everywhere they went. And the great thing when the advisors come, they get to see the whole community. We're small enough that we drive every street and every area. But anyway, they were impressed, and they could also was very impressed with the community atmosphere of Edmonston and how there's such a great sense and feel of community where people are taking care of each other and looking after each other. So I think those, two things to be proud of. That's absolutely two great things. They look at 7 criteria. They look at community vitality, overall impression, urban forestry, celebrating heritage, landscaping, floral, and in environmental. And of course, we won their environmental award 4 years. So hopefully, maybe we'll do that again. But it's not about awards. It's about the program's about building community, and I think we're doing. When they come back with their report in October, I believe it's going to verify that we are building community in a good way. We do have a concert scheduled for Friday night, but we wanted to have a quick discussion on whether we should go forward with it. the forecast is calling. Thank God we need rain, so we really want the rain to come. And if it takes having a concert to get the rain to come, then that's terrific. But the rain, the latest says it's going to be 72% at 7 a.m. and 56% at 7 p.m. So what are we thinking? Should we go forward? Should we try to do something indoors at the rec center in a smaller scale? We just need some direction.
Rod, I would say if the forecast still looks bad at 2 o'clock tomorrow, then I would say cancel it.
Okay.
I mean, because if the weather's bad, we don't want to bring people out to come inside the rec center.
Yeah.
True. Okay. Great. Thank you. We just wanted to get some feedback before we before we move out on that. And then just a reminder, next Friday night is casino night for the seniors at the rec center at 6:30. And on next Saturday, which there may be rain too, Jamila is doing her environmental fair and pet adoption, and Taz is going to be performing, and it's just this is her capstone project for the year. Jamila will be leaving us in August the 15th. This program pays for her for 1 year, and we were not successful in matching to get a new CCC member for next year, but the governor has announced a program where we can seek 2 high school graduates, up to 4 years graduates, so 18 to 22-year-olds that can work for 9 months, and again, the program pays for that, and they can provide service. So we're going to evaluate whether we want to do that for the port towns and here in Edmonston as a collaboration for those 2 folks to be here. I do have a little bit of sad news. Our communication specialist, Asha Cole, is leaving us. Her last day on the job will be July 22nd. So please say hi or bye or thank you, and wish her well. She's done I describe her as my rock star, and she's just done an amazing job of taking our communications to the next level. And she has grown our Facebook to our text messaging to our flyers and our reels. You all have starred in various reels, and I believe that our attendance that we saw on Friday night was a result of those efforts. As people know, they get the word, they know, they can easily find information about what's going on. For instance, the input tonight, that was a flyer that she designed, and it went door to door. So every home in Edmonston had the flyer for tonight's meeting, how to sign on, how to participate. So we really appreciate her help, and we thank her for that. She's moving on up, as so to speak. And I think that is it. I know there was something else I wanted to mention, but the water main project is nearing completion. They have the stamped crosswalks on Decatur to do, the asphalt look that you saw before. They are putting that back, and they have to pave 46th Avenue. They're paving 46th Avenue on a Saturday so that doesn't disrupt the businesses quite so bad as it does during the week. And I believe that is it, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes. Ms. McCauley?
I know fireworks is such my favorite topic with other people in this town. Can we do something about knowing certain times of the year that fireworks are going to be going off. On the 4th of July, it was after 12 o'clock and they were still shooting up the war zone at our end of the block. And Tracy will understand this, the old Betsy came out. And I don't think the neighbors knew that I knew so many nice words to say to the public. Residents are starting to feel, some of them, that they are entitled because they're residents. And that goes the fireworks, parking, other things in the town. There's like, they feel entitled. You know, I'm a resident, I've been here. You can't give me a ticket or you can't tell me no because I'm a resident. I think those days are numbered and we have to start going back and people aren't going to be happy with it, but the law says no, you're going to get a ticket. The law says no. If you have to take them to jail, you know, I'll wave bye to them as they're being dragged out. But we got to start, and Chief, I know you have been great about trying to educate some of these residents. I think the education needs to end and enforcement to the max needs to take place. And I could go on about a couple other things, but I know it's 10 o'clock at night and I'm sure everybody's ready to end this.
Yeah, I think you made some good points though. Those fireworks, I think we should have some type of something. We can talk about that too at another time later, but
I mean,
I agree with you.
Nobody has to reply back. Yeah, nobody has to reply back, but just something that I'm gonna really bring up in September.
We should talk about that. That's an issue, major. Ms. Serrano, thank you, Ms. McCauley.
No comment other than just thanking everyone who came out tonight. It's really great to see residents and folks give us input. We don't usually get this turnout, so it's really exciting to have all these folks out. And that's it.
Yeah, thank you. Ms. Turberville?
Yeah, I mean, I can just echo that, Tony. This has been a really wonderful exercise for us all, I think. And you know, while we may disagree, I think it was just a very it was a good conversation and a respectful one. So I think that's really great and says a lot about our community.
Yeah.
And I thought the 4th of July event on the bridge was great, notwithstanding the sweltering heat. So I'm glad that is a tradition that we started last year and hopefully can continue.
Tracy, can I say one more thing? Not that you're gonna move me.
Yes,
on tonight's thing, I know we all don't agree, but I think what we all have to agree on, no matter which way this goes, we have to show the residents that we are unified.
We are.
We are. That we really are.
Yeah.
It's not a show. It's not. We're not putting on happy faces or sad faces, but however this turns out, that we all show that we're doing what we think is best for the community, whether we get our way or someone else gets their way. And I don't want to say your way, but it's
for the community.
There's going to be some upset people in the town and some hard feelings. And I think that's going to be our next step, is to make sure that it doesn't happen. I don't know if that made sense to y'all, because I'm real tired and I got a baby crying in another room. But I think hopefully you guys understood what the hell I just said.
That made a lot of sense. Made a lot of sense. Thank you. Mr. Johnson.
I thought, excuse me, I thought tonight's conversations was some good points and some bad points. And so I'm pretty much on the fence on some of the stuff. But I guess we'll have to wait till September to see what's what.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to add too much more and prolong the night, but let me tell you what I have on my list of 10. I'll just cut it down to 5. It's like I'm just kidding. But thank you all. And Betsy, you made a great point that I appreciate this council so much because we all have our specialty areas and we can disagree, but it is a respectful disagreement or agreement. And I greatly appreciate you. That's how you know that we're all invested in our community. And that's what it's about. Mayor and council and the staff are invested in the town of Edmonston. Greatly appreciate our town attorney who advises us very well. And so that's all I have. It's 10 o'clock and we never go this late. But it was all because of that input. So thank you for gathering all of those that you gathered and the Instagram posts and everything that was done in order to get the input so that we can make the right decision. So with that, I will.
I make a motion, we
One
close.
more
meeting.
thing.
Mr. Johnson.
One more thing before we go.
Yes, sir.
As far as that path go and that gate, it doesn't matter what you do because the people on those mopeds and motorcycles, they're just gonna go around it anyway and get up on the path.
Good point. Yep.
So, I mean, I just thought put that thought out there.
Throw that in there. Yep. Thank you. Great.
I'll make my motion again that we adjourn for the night.
Okay. Who second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, thank you. And thank you so much for making sure that we receive those bushels of crabs. Right.
Yeah.
All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 All right. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.
The last one, trying to figure the thing out.